Afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Oldham County Fiscal Court. I'm Judge Executive David Vogel. Happy to have all of you here today. If you brought a cell phone with you, please turn it to off or vibrate it. If you get a call during the meeting, it'll interfere with our PA system here. I'd like everyone who's now able to please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Secretary, would you please call the roll?
Magistrate Likens.
Here.
Magistrate Tice.
Here.
Magistrate Leslie.
Here.
Magistrate Greenwell.
Here.
Magistrate Sparks.
Here.
Magistrate Eldridge.
Here.
Magistrate Dye.
Here.
Magistrate Logsdon.
Here.
Judge Vogel.
Here. Having all members of the Fiscal Court present, this meeting is now in session. Is there a motion to accept the agenda?
So moved. Second.
Additions? I'd like to suggest directly under county administration, we announce our bids for the salt that we solicited last meeting, the roads. And also under E1, under the Briarwood Road, below that, please put first reading of an addition to the alcohol ordinance. Hearing nothing else, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Now I'd like to ask our clerk to read the minutes from our meeting on April 5th.
April 5th, 2016. The Oldham County Fiscal Court convened at a regular meeting at 2 p.m. with Judge Executive David Vogel, County Attorney John Carter, and the following magistrates in attendance: Brent Likens, Wayne Tice, Bob Leslie, Steve Greenwell, J.D. Sparks, Kevin Eldridge, and Bob Dye. Magistrate Logsdon was absent. Motion made by Magistrate Leslie and seconded by Magistrate Greenwell to approve the agenda. Motion carried unanimously. Motion made by Magistrate Leslie and seconded by Magistrate Eldridge to approve the minutes of March 15th as presented. Motion carried unanimously. Public comment, none. Bid opening for the Special Inspection Services New Detention Center project. The following sealed bids for special inspections services for the new detention center project were open and read aloud for the record. Garber Chilton Engineers and Land Surveyors, $57,540. Greenbaum Associates, $35,900. Terracon Consultants, $44,232. Thalen Associates, $130,000. And Vector Engineers, $197,610. Bid opening for road salt. The following sealed bids for road salt were open and read aloud for the record. Cargill, $84.33 a ton. Compass Minerals, $81.67 a ton. Detroit Salt, $80.94 a ton. And Morton Salt, $1, $106.33 a ton. Bid opening for resurfacing of Briarwood Road. The following sealed bids for the Briarwood Road resurfacing project were open and read aloud for the record. Flynn Brothers, $42,932.25. Hall Contracting, $35,909.05. Louisville Paving, $53,163.54. Matt Construction, $41,632.20. Ohio Valley Asphalt, $37,716.50. And Riverside Paving, $42,678. Jail Fiscal Year 2016-17 Budget Report. Jailer Mike Simpson presented the proposed fiscal year 2016-17 budget for the jail and responded to questions from the court. County Administration, LG&E Temporary Utilities Application and Agreement for the Detention Center. Motion made by Magistrate Sparks and seconded by Magistrate Dye to authorize the Judge Executive to sign the LG&E application relating to temporary utilities for the Detention Center construction project. Motion carried unanimously. Payables. Motion made by Magistrate Leslie and seconded by Magistrate Tice to approve the payables. Motion carried unanimously. Surplus property. Motion made by Magistrate Greenwell and seconded by Magistrate Sparks to declare surplus the list of county property with intent to sell at public auction. Motion carried unanimously. Contracts, agreements, and resolutions. Ricky Timberlake auction agreement. Motion made by Magistrate Greenwell and seconded by Magistrate Eldridge to authorize the judge executive to sign the contract agreement with Timberlake Auction Services relating to an absolute auction for county surplus property. Motion carried unanimously. Resolution, purchase order authorization for detention center. Motion made by Magistrate Likens and seconded by Magistrate Eldridge to authorize the judge executive to sign resolution number 03040516 relating to delegating signature authority for purchase orders for the detention center construction project. Motion carried unanimously. Resolution, the annual transportation of non-public school students. Motion made by Magistrate Greenwell and seconded by Magistrate Eldridge to authorize the judge executive to sign resolution number 02040516 relating to reimbursement of transportation costs for parochial school students as submitted. Motion carried 7-0. Magistrate Dye was absent from the bench at time of vote. KYTC Supplemental Agreement Number 2 for the 1793 Sidewalk Connector Project. Motion made by Magistrate Likens and seconded by Magistrate Leslie to authorize the judge executive to sign the KYTC Supplemental Agreement Number 2 and Resolution Number 01040516 relating to the Kentucky 1793 Sidewalk Project. Motion carried unanimously. KYTC Agreement Amendment for the Apple Patch Park and Ride. Motion made by Magistrate Dye and seconded by Magistrate Likens to authorize the judge executive to sign the KYTC Amendment Agreement relating to CMAQ funds for the Park and Ride at Apple Patch Project. Motion carried unanimously. DLG Grant Agreement for the Recreational Trails Program Grant. Motion made by Magistrate Leslie and seconded by Magistrate Likens to authorize the judge executive to sign the memorandum of agreement with DLG relating to grant funds for utility service and a composting pit at Morgan Conservation Park. Motion carried unanimously. Resolution for the National Public Safety Telecommunications Week. Motion made by Magistrate Likens and seconded by Magistrate Eldridge to authorize the judge executive to sign resolution number 04040516 declaring April 10th through the 16th as Public Safety Telecommunications Week in Oldham County. Motion carried unanimously. Committee recommendations and reports from the Finance Committee. Motion made by Magistrate Tice and seconded by Magistrate Eldridge to accept the CPI index increase of 0.7% for magistrate salaries effective January 1st, 2016. Motion carried 6-2 on a roll call vote. Judge Vogel and the following magistrates voted yes: Brent Likens, Wayne Tice, Steve Greenwell, Kevin Eldridge, and Bob Dye. Magistrates Leslie and Sparks voted no. Road Committee. Motion made by Magistrate Dye and seconded by Magistrate Sparks upon recommendation of the county engineer to release a $21,900 performance bond for High Grove Subdivision Section 2 and to accept High Grove Lane and Windsor Way into the county road system. Motion carried unanimously. Motion made by Magistrate Tice and seconded by Magistrate Sparks upon recommendation of the county engineer to release a $16,000 erosion control bond for Morgan Place Subdivision Section 2. Motion carried unanimously. Motion made by Magistrate Dye and seconded by Magistrate Greenwell upon recommendation of the county engineer to release the standby letter of credit in the amount of $113,300 for Hidden Falls subdivision and to accept Hidden Falls Drive and Springs Hollow Court into the county road system. Motion carried unanimously. Motion made by Magistrate Leslie and seconded by Magistrate Greenwell upon recommendation of the county engineer to accept the sanctuary subdivision roads into the county road system. Motion carried unanimously. Motion made by Magistrate Likens and seconded by Magistrate Sparks upon recommendation of the county engineer to accept the petition from residents of Settlers Point Trail subdivision relating to bringing the remaining roads within the subdivision into the county road system. Motion carried unanimously. Personnel actions for Parks and Recreation. Motion made by Magistrate Leslie and seconded by Magistrate Greenwell to accept the resignation of Michael Hamilton effective 4/29/2016. Motion carried unanimously. For the Road Department, motion made by Magistrate Greenwell and seconded by Magistrate Leslie to accept the resignation of David Gelda effective 4/6/2016. Motion carried unanimously. Bid award. Motion made by Magistrate Likens and seconded by Magistrate Dye upon recommendation of the county treasurer and project architect Keith Sharp to award the special inspection services for the new detention center project to Greenbaum Associates for $35,900. Motion carried unanimously. Second public comment, none. Business and announcements. Magistrate Dye announced the ramp to Interstate 71 North, exit 14 Crestwood, will be closed for road repair work from April 15th to the 28th. He provided an update on KYTC's roadway widening and realignment project in intersection of Kentucky 329 and 22 in Crestwood. Magistrate Eldridge announced KYTC's temporary closing of Kentucky 393 from I-71 to Commerce Parkway for its road project. It will be closed nightly from 8 p.m. to 5 a.m., beginning April 8th through the April 11th, weather permitting. For updates on the project, call 511 or call KYTC District 5 office. Magistrate Greenwell announced the county's surplus items will be sold at public auction 10 a.m. Saturday, April 16th at the county's maintenance garage in Buckner. He congratulated the South Oldham boys basketball team for winning the first game in the state tournament and provided an update on the Bridge Hill project. Magistrate Leslie gave a brief overview of the Oldham County Humane Society and stated donations are welcome by contacting them at 222-7537. Magistrate Lincoln suggested a trend analysis be performed on the county roads paved each year. Judge Vogel reminded residents that county government information can be found on the updated county website, Facebook, and Channel 25. Motion made by Magistrate Eldridge and seconded by Magistrate Linkins to adjourn the meeting. Motion carried unanimously, and the meeting was adjourned at 3:55 p.m.
You've heard the reading of our minutes from the April 5th meeting. Is there a motion to accept?
So moved.
Second.
Corrections? They should die.
Yeah, on the road committee, first one about High Grove subdivision. I don't believe that was me that made that motion.
You know where that is? All right, we'll check the videotape and find out who made that.
Yeah, I don't even know where it
Is there any other corrections? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. It's time now for public comment. That's that time during our meeting when anyone from the community can address the fiscal court for an item of interest or concern. We aren't referring to items on the agenda. Those will be addressed later by those who would like to speak to items on the agenda. We welcome our county clerk, Ms. Julie Barr.
Good afternoon, Judge and Magistrates. I'm here to make a plea to the community. We have an election coming up on May the 17th, and I am short one poll worker. I need a Democrat to fill a slot at Briar Hill. That's the Assembly of God campground. And then I actually have no Democratic alternates at all. So I definitely need one slot filled, and then I need some alternates on the Democratic Party. So if you are interested and you feel like this might be a good way to serve your community, you can please call us at the voter registration at 222-0047. And we will be glad to let you know about the training. It's on May the 9th here in this courtroom. We have two times, 10 o'clock in the morning, 6 o'clock in the evening. You would be paid $25 for training, and then working on election day is $150 as well. It is a long day, but it is a fun day, especially if you live in that area. You'll get to see all your neighbors and people that you closely associate with. But we are getting close to the election, and I need to have all those slots filled and some extras just in case emergencies come up or sicknesses occur. So please call us at the voter registration number at 222-0047. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to address the fiscal court? While Jailer Simpson's coming up here, I might remind you, our meetings are seen on Channel 25. That's in Oldham County, Henry County, and Trimble County.
Thank you, Judge.
Jailer Mike Simpson.
Thank you, Judge, and members of court. I wanted to come today just to share some numbers with the court, Judge, with yourself and members of the court. I know we're always talking about budgets and numbers, estimated numbers versus actual numbers, but I thought it's interesting, and so I wanted to do this today and just share some numbers with the court. Judge, this court came in, obviously, as everyone knows, in January of 2011. So you're in about 5.5 years. You're in your 6th year as far as being part of this. But concerning the jail, what I've done, and I'll get to the numbers. I went back starting in 2011 and estimated, obviously, for 2016 that will end in June 30th of this year. But I've taken the actual budget numbers that we budgeted for the jail budget for all those years that you all have been together, and versus actual numbers. that we actually spend in each one of the budget cycles. Starting in 2011 and all the way through June 30th of 2016, and again, the latter part of this presentation, or the numbers, are a little bit estimated, but we've taken the 9.5 months and we projected. But in those 6 years, we actually budgeted, the actual budget was $12,520,000 over a 6-year window. But actual monies spent was just a little bit over 12 million. Actually, around the numbers, 12,028,000. I think it's an important number. Each and every year that this court has been together as a unit, we have come in actually under budget. Actual budget numbers versus actual numbers that we have spent. And in that 6-year window, it's about $492,000. I know I was here 2 weeks ago. There was some discussion about a transfer number. Is it important? Is it not important? And we've tried to educate. I have tried to do this each and every year that I've been involved with the jail, and now I'm in my 30th year. The transfer number, again, is actual numbers. That's the dollar amount that Oldham Countyans are required to pay to operate the jail. In that same 6-year window, we have budgeted transfer numbers, $4,714,000. We've actually spent about 4.2. That's a little over $500,000 actual transfer monies. Again, if you really look at this, the actual budget for that 6-year window is $12,028,000. But we, Oldham Countyans, taxpayers, have actually been asked to spend about 4.2. There's almost $8 million difference from operational budget to actual Oldham County dollars being spent. I think that's pretty significant. Math would say, where did the other $8 million of the operational? Myself, my staff, in the last 6 years, and even prior to that, Judge, even prior to before this court came together. That's what we've done. Our goal has always been that, to take the fixed number and drive that down and minimize the amount of transfer dollars from the general fund to the jail fund. Okay. One more thing I'll share. Apologize if it runs just a shade over. Again, $4.2 million over a 6-year window. Actual Oldham County tax dollars being spent to operate the jail. If you factor in the labor savings of our inmate work program, everybody on this court has heard me talk about that before in the past. It's a real number. We've had inmates working at every county agency over the last 6 years, and even prior to that, the jail included. We have inmates that work inside. But every county agency across the board has utilized the inmate work program. If you take the average number of inmates times basically 40 hours a week, I'm just kind of giving you I'm not punching, I've got the number here, but just to let you know how I got to this particular number, X number of inmates working 40 hours a week times a reasonable dollar amount projected out over 6 years. It comes to somewhere to $3,744,000 in labor savings. Now, that is a real number. It could be an adjusted number based off how you want to approach the dollar amount per hour worked. But the program is real, the benefit of that program is real, and these are real numbers. So if, in theory, if it cost Oldham County over the last 6 years $4.2 million, but if you subtracted the $3,744,000 in the inmate work program, let's do the math. A little over $400,000. Is it real? It may not. People will disagree or agree. I know in my position as Oldham County Jailer, President of the Kentucky Jailers Association statewide, that number I just shared with my court is a number that is real across the state of Kentucky, because every full-service jail in Kentucky has an inmate work program that put inmates out in the community and it's a direct savings. So I'm going to continue to attempt to educate everyone. I want everybody to understand what we do, why certain things cost certain ways, but I want to make sure that this court is at least having some numbers to think about as we go through this budget process. And I appreciate the time, Judge and members of court.
Thank you, Mike. Appreciate it. Manager Sparks.
I'm a little slow on the uptake sometimes, so let me understand what you're trying to say here. What you're trying to say is you budgeted a larger number than you actually spent year over year, and somehow that's a benefit to us. And now we should increase your budget exponentially and your salaries exponentially and get you the hot rod kind of vehicles that you want instead of a big van that can haul the most economical number of people, and that's what you're presenting to us. The fact is that the 4 million that you stated, 4 million range, compared to the 12 million, it's not a directly equatable number, because what you're trying to argue on one is how much for just the Oldham County people versus all the other costs when we're adding other inmates in there to actually bring down the cost of our per inmate use. I'm kind of frustrated that you would come here today and try and present this way instead of talking to us in the committee or even trying to explain your numbers in your budget, because that was all fuzzy math. I just can't even believe it.
Well, Manager Sparks, let me say this first and foremost. The budgets that this court has approved is a budget number that's been worked out each and every year between myself, our county treasurer. So when you make a statement, I think that's an inaccurate statement. When you say I come in with an inflated budget number, this budget
I didn't say an inflated budget number. I said you didn't budget
We could probably
properly.
play the tape back, but I'm not here to argue that point. The point being, every budget it is approved by this court. Okay, so if you disagree and you know what your job is, I'm not trying to tell you what your job is, I know what my job is, but if you have the opportunity in the last 6 years to approve or not approve the operational budget, from that point, what I do and what I'm trying to share with the court today are through the efforts of that jail and my staff. These are, whether you agree or not, that's your option, but they're real numbers. We see the direct results of that. If we don't do these particular things, if we don't go and generate outside revenue, the transferred number will be directly affected. That's simple math.
Nobody disagrees with that.
And it sounds like to me you're
But
disagreeing.
nobody disagrees with that, but the fact of the matter is that what you just said exactly proves my point. You come to us with a budget every year, and apparently, at the end of the year, the numbers aren't accurate compared to what you budgeted. So we're asking to look at your budget and modify it, and you're refusing to modify it, even though you've demonstrated that year over year you come in with a budget that's incorrect compared to what you actually need to operate the jail with.
No, that's an inaccurate statement.
Exactly, it is an
Magistrate.
inaccurate statement.
There's no way the jailer can know in advance how many inmates are going to be in the jail, if they're going to be state or federal inmates, what his population is. We have to go by experience from year to year as to what happened to have some estimate. A budget is not a
Lock solid. I
Right.
understand that, Judge, but the point is that he's trying to come in and argue the difference between an estimated budget and the actual numbers as somehow an excuse for this year spending exponentially more money on inflating salaries. I use the word inflating.
Well, now, let's not go back down
all
that
right.
path.
No, fair enough.
$13 an hour is not an inflated salary under anybody's point of view. So let's be, we've been down that road before. These people are not high-paid individuals, and I'm not going to have them, anybody think that $13 an hour is an exorbitant salary under any estimation.
No, I'm not saying that,
So please do not
Judge.
do that. Do not argue with me, please.
Okay.
Judge, if I could just share one more. I appreciate the question. Everyone's entitled to their individual position. The fiscal year of 2012, that particular budget cycle, on transfer numbers, We budgeted $549,168. We actually transferred that year $665 for exactly the point that you did. So for that particular year, Magistrate Sparks, we actually transferred more than what we budgeted. And there was reason in that particular year that we had to do that. But to Judge's point, there is no guarantee. To determine, we do a budget and we try to do the best that we can. And I'm just saying over a 6-year window, I feel very confident and very proud of the fact on our operational budget, we've been under budget each and every year. And on our transfer number, we have saved this community that number. Whether you agree with that or not, that's your individual position and you're entitled to that. And but that's where
Well,
we're at.
but that exactly proves my point. The point is that we're looking at the budgets, and they don't necessarily need to be increased, because you come in under it every time, almost, according to you. So there's...
Well, the question
so-
would be, I would beg the question, how do you think that happens? Do you think that's just a magical thing that
That's your
happens?
job.
It
Are you
is my
gonna-
job, and I take my job very seriously.
Come on.
And
All right, I'll let him go.
so, I apologize.
Let's not have, okay. All right, I think the point here that you've tried to make is that the transfer number is very important. That's how much is coming out of the community's pocketbook to pay the cost of the jail. We have the gross cost, if you will, is paid by, is supplemented by the inmate population that we have in there beyond Oldham County inmates, and we're trying to get that number down as low as we can. How we start off with a little bit of an educated guess, I think, each year, but Mike has, I think, done his best to keep the jail full, if you will, you know, and to maximize whatever income potential we have. So I understand you're trying to be a very good guardian of the public's money here, and we sometimes don't always agree on how those dollars should be spent, but the main thing is we want to spend less of community money, or as little as we have to operate this full-service jail.
And that's why I sit on the jail committee, and I've supported building the new jail for the economics of it from the beginning.
Right, thank you.
Thank you,
Right.
Judge.
And as far as, we've had, those who have come in here don't understand, we've had a discussion about salaries in the jail. The jailer would like to increase the salaries in the jail. I would like to see our salaries move up some. Salaries are very important, obviously, to all of us. Have to make a living, have to have money to spend. We don't want to overspend the amount of money that's available. And we're about to increase the size of the jail, add staff. We'll have more inmates. There's a lot of moving parts that'll be coming up as we move forward, and they all have to come out square to keep our transfer number level or moving down. The whole point of building a new jail is to spend less of county money on housing prisoners than we are now. Right now, our transfer, I think, is about $900,000. Am I correct, Mr. Clark? All right. So we'd like to drive that number down, cut it in half, push it as far toward zero as we can get it to be a good steward for the community. So we're not all of an equal mindset on how to exactly achieve that, but we're all of goodwill. So, Magistrate Dye.
Mike, could you come back up for a second? I think that this whole conversation, we went down this road at the last court. I didn't really want to see this digress into the same conversation that we had last time. But in Mike's defense, a budget, as we all know, we budget at home, we budget here, we budget at sometimes maybe where we are employed. It's a plan to spend. So for Mike, for you to come in and say, well, I'm under budget, well, you didn't have an exact number going in, so it's a good thing to be under versus over. I don't think that the volume of money, that's an important thing, but I think that conceptually we have to look at over versus under. But what I would like to focus on with you here, and since you came up on your own volition during the public comment period, I would like for you to, at the next jail committee, I'd like to take these numbers that I just wrote down that you just shared with us, and I'd like to take those numbers and explore them a little further. All right, let's find out exactly how we got to these numbers. And if you're doing something that is really, really, really good, we need to expand on the goods and look at the bads. But if it's going to be as it was in the past, and I'm not taking you to task, and I don't want you to feel that way. I am not here to argue with you. I just want to make sure that in our committee, we need to look at these numbers and see how we can come up with a better number of budgeting and the spending process, if that's agreeable to you.
Well, I think, Master Dye, on this particular proposal, if you look at, and I didn't bring a copy of that, so I'm going to do these.
And I don't want to go there today. I'm
Well, I
just
know,
talking about these
but-
numbers.
I think we did that attempt. We tried to come closer to what would be our estimated revenue, okay? And still try to maintain what our actual cost for this upcoming budget cycle. And even with some things that we talked about that we were that I was asking for, additional things that have not been in the budget in the past, we still came in with an estimated, under the estimated budget, operational budget, less than the current budget year. I apologize, I didn't bring a copy of the
Right,
budget.
and would you agree that in our discussion between you and the budget and the jail committee, would you agree that our talks broke down?
Well, again, if you don't want to go there, I don't want to, I'm not going to engage
Would you,
on what we
would you
talked
agree
about.
with that?
Was there differences of opinions? Sure there was.
Okay.
Okay.
And then that's how we left it. And so I would like to go back and reexamine that, but, unless you're willing to look at the numbers that you bring in, and then you're not going to give the committee an opportunity to explore these numbers, we're going to stay in an impasse.
Well, Master Dye, obviously, everyone on their jail committee, judge himself, could do exactly what I've done. I asked to get these numbers. I went back and had the numbers pulled. They're real numbers. They're not approved numbers. They're actual numbers over the last 5.5 years. So you have every opportunity to do exactly what I did. I can share with you or this court what we do. I mean, that's not a problem. I think I've done that for the time that you've been on court.
Well, I think I've asked the question and you've answered it to some degree. I think I've pretty much resolved it in my mind. So anyway, thanks for coming back up.
Thank you. Thank you, Judge.
All right, thank you. Anybody else who would like to address the public comment here? And, we'll give-
Judge.
Hello.
Deputy Michael Meese with the Oldham County Sheriff's Office. I just wanted to bring to the attention to members of the court, judge, and the community that on April the 30th, which is a Saturday, the end of this month, the Oldham County Sheriff's Office and Police Department, in partnership with the USDEA, will be hosting another annual drug take-back. These have been tremendously successful in this county. We continue each year to bring in hundreds of pounds of Schedule III and above narcotics, thousands of needles and liquids. Unfortunately, Kentucky still continues to be one of the highest in the nation for prescription addiction and overdoses. We will, on Saturday, there'll be 2 locations on the 30th. One will be the LaGrange Fire Station 2 at 3637 West Highway 146 in Buckner. The second location will be the Oldham County Police Department at 1855 North Highway 393 in Buckner. And again, the times will be from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. I would remind everyone that both agencies do continue throughout the year to take prescription drugs from the general public at each location. Thank you.
Thank you. Urge members of the public to bring in those prescription drugs. I think that, okay, go ahead. We have one more. Thank you.
I'll be quick, Judge.
All right, go.
I've introduced myself to this body before. My name is Jason Nemus. I'm running for State House of Representatives. The district I'm running for is 80% in Jefferson County, but 20% is here in Oldham County, in Pee Wee Valley, and in Crestwood. I'm running for a lot of reasons, but I'll just mention 3 here. I want to control spending. I think Frankfort has been on a spending spree for decades. I support Governor Bevin, what he's trying to do and control spending. I want to be a part of that.
I'm running to protect our constitutional rights, both at the state level and the federal level. I think our rights to religious freedom, our Second Amendment rights, our First Amendment rights, and others are under attack. I teach advanced constitutional law at the University of Louisville as an adjunct professor, and so the Constitution is something that I hold dear, and I want to be involved in protecting, not only protecting, but getting back some of the rights that I believe that we've lost. And I also understand there's a very important role in government. Used to be the director of the court system in the entire state of Kentucky, and drug court is something I really believe in. So I'm not against government. Government has a real role. But I want to keep government within its proper bounds and otherwise get it out of our business. It's encroaching too much in our business and regulations. As a lawyer, I represent businesses all the time in regulatory compliance, and it is absolutely absurd how much money they spend on me and other folks just to comply with the simplest of things, things that shouldn't even be in the mix. So I'm going to control spending, protect our constitutional rights, and get government back out of our business. I want to say a quick thing about my opponent. This is not the right place to have a political speech, and I won't do that. My opponent is a very, very good man. He's a friend of mine. He's been in Frankfort for 2 decades. No one is prouder of being a state representative than my opponent. And I think a lot of him, and if he wins on May 17th, on May 18th, I'll be walking for him. But there are some contrasts between him and me. And I'll mention quickly 3. I do not support Common Core. I support state control of our school systems. I will not vote to raise my pension, which my opponent has done a number of times. He voted for the legislative super pension. Not only will I not vote to raise my pension, I don't think legislators ought to be getting a pension at all. This is a citizen legislature. So when I go there, I will not accept the pension, and I'll fight to get rid of it for all new legislators and any more building on top of the current legislators. So I'm against legislative pensions altogether. My opponent has voted for the legislative super pension in 2004. And most importantly, I will not raise taxes. My opponent has voted to raise taxes a number of times, even saying that he's for raising the income tax. I'm not for raising the income tax, for lowering the income tax. My opponent is a good man. I will never go after his character. If he beats me on May 17th, he's much better than the Democrat opponent. I'll work for him. But I think there's some contrast between Mr. Krim and myself, and so I think I'm the better candidate in this race. But again, he's my friend. I like him a great deal. He's a good man. But I think I'm the better candidate on May 17th. So I hope everyone in Pee Wee Valley and in Crestwood considers voting for me. Thank you, Judge.
Thank you. At this point, I'm going to close public comment, go on to the next item on our agenda here, and we're going to open or at least announce the winner of the SALT bid competition.
We're not doing payables first?
Pardon?
Oh, we added that on top?
I put that in there ahead of the payables. Okay.
I missed it.
And Beth Stuber, County Engineer.
We opened the bids, I think it was last meeting. We had 4 bids. The low bidder was Detroit Salt at $80.94 a ton, and recommend that be approved.
Judge, I'll make that motion.
Now second.
Moved and seconded, discussion. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Thank you. Next item on the agenda are the bills to be paid for the last 2 weeks. Magistrates have had these for several days. When you're ready, I'll accept a motion to pay the bills.
Judge, I'll make that motion.
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. All right, we have budget transfers. Melissa Horn, County Treasurer.
I'm asking you to approve budget transfers through March 31st. For the general fund, there are 15 different line items that are over budget. We need to transfer $47,730 from line items that are not over budget to cover this. There's nothing to be transferred for the road department or for the road fund. For the jail fund, there's one item, $2,000 needed. And for dispatch, there are 2 line item transfers totaling $16,300.
Mr. Tice, does the Finance Committee have an opinion on this?
Nothing other than we'd like to recommend it be approved as presented.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
No.
Who would, two? Okay. Thank you.
The other thing that I would like approval on are the transfers from general fund to the other funds through March 31st. We need to transfer $4,367 to the road fund, $467,931 to the jail fund, $121,848 to the central dispatch fund.
Finance Committee would like to make a motion to do that also.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Magistrate Sparks.
Just expand on what those funds are for and why we're transferring them.
What those funds are for.
Well, yeah, why are we transferring 467,000 from the jail fund to the general fund?
No, we're transferring
from-
it from general fund to the jail fund.
Okay.
That's the transfer that we need in order to
the-
keep the jail fund at zero.
Okay.
Okay? The budgeted amount for the year, as Judge said earlier, is $945,000.
This is the general transfer that we do every year.
Yes. And the state auditor has said that that the fiscal court has to approve these transfers periodically.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Thank you. Next item is the first reading of an ordinance for a loan agreement with the Stockyards Bank. Stan Clark, Chief Financial Officer.
Okay, we've had a lot of discussion today about the new jail, and we have elected to go forward with the new jail. We've got it under construction, and now we are putting the financing together. And before we get into this, I just want to explain, we're doing this a little different than probably most counties do. Typically, on a project like this, the bonds are issued about the same time that it goes out to bid. Usually that's done because the general contractors or people bidding on a job, they want to know that the county or the entity has the funds available to pay them if they do the project, if they want it. But Oldham County, we're financially strong. We're managed well. We went to bid and we awarded the bid prior to putting all the financing in place, as we had done our preliminary work to get that financing lined up, but we haven't put it in place. There's another step that we're going through here as a county, which I'm trying to explain why I'm going to be coming to you with different ordinances over the next 60 days, because I'm just not doing one typical bond thing here. It's estimated that we will need about $17 million to fund the construction of this jail that we need to borrow. And so typically, a way other jails, one currently being built in this state, they go out, they borrow that funds day one, and they also borrow a couple years worth of interest on that. So if they, in a typical thing like this, a $17 million borrowing, they actually end up borrowing about $18.2 million, because they take all that interest that during the construction and roll it in to the cost of that bond. What we are doing today, we have worked with the Stockyards Bank here to set up basically what we would call a line of credit. And so instead of borrowing the money up front and then starting to pay interest from day one on the whole $17 million, we will borrow the money from Stockyards as we pay our bills. Okay, up to, this is a $5 million line to put in with us. So we'll ramp up, and so if we spend $1 million one month, that's all our debt will be that month. And we'll ramp it up, and by my estimate, about December of this year, we'll issue a roughly $10 million, what we call tax-exempt bond, and we'll pay off that line, and then pay our borrowings and construction costs going on. And then once again, we'll go back to Stockyards, who's now been paid off, and we'll ramp it up again and do our final bond issuance. And just roughly, this, on a present value basis, very roughly, very conservatively, will save us over $1.5 million in interest, just for the construction of this jail. It sounds like a big number, but look at it this way. If we borrowed that money today and started making monthly payments on it, we would be paying about $110,000 a month, every month. The first month, based on our estimate, we'll pay about $3,000 in interest to Stockyards. It gets less as it goes, as the debt, but that's where the savings are. It's a tremendous amount of savings, but it's a little more complex in the fact that we'll have a revolving line of credit and we're going to issue a couple bonds. One bond is going to be taxable because we'll be taking federal prisoners and we're not allowed to do a tax exempt on that bond, but we will do a tax exempt on the portion that we can do a tax exempt. Tax exempt will save us about 0.75%. So anyway, what I'm bringing in for you today is an ordinance of the Fiscal Court of the County of Oldham County authorizing the execution and delivery of a loan agreement between the county and Stockyards Bank and Trust Company and the issuance, execution, and delivery of related revolving revenue anticipation of the county to Stockyards Bank. Without reading the whole thing, I think y'all have had this available to you since last week. Like I say, it's basically a line of credit. The interest rate is prime. Today, 3.5% is what this would cost us. So it's prime rate. That's a very preferred rate. And I intend that we can pay up and down on this. So like when we get our insurance premium tax payments in one quarter and get that a little bit extra money, I may pay this down if we've got the money, then borrow it back. So that's the go here. This is the first reading. And then we'll advertise and then have the second reading of it on next fiscal court.
The second reading will be on May 3rd.
Yes.
All right, does anybody have any questions for Mr. Clark at this point? Pardon? You have a question?
Say something to Stan. Stan, I spoke with you earlier about this, and to me, it's amazing what Stan can do, and I can't say enough about how he was explaining it all to me about how we're not going to be borrowing money just to have it sit in the bank and draw interest. Actually, we're going to be borrowing money almost real time. Would that be a fair statement?
Correct. The construction bills will come to fiscal court monthly. They'll be authorized for payment, and when we make those payments, we'll borrow the funds needed that day.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing how much interest we're going to save, and I think you had mentioned $1.5 million over the life of the project, just on interest.
Right.
And that's just by managing the money the way we're managing it. And it's amazing what you've put together, and I commend you on your hard work.
Might turn your statement around there and just say that we're not going to borrow money and put it in our account and pay interest on it. You said draw interest. I think we'd be paying quite a bit more than we're drawing.
I have a question.
Magistrate Sparks, and then.
Yeah, Stan, you know, I can't even think of how much money you've saved this county over the last 4 or 5 years or whatever. I truly appreciate your efforts, and it's amazing what you can do with good government, you know, having smart people work for you. Thank you.
Magistrate Logsdon?
Yes, Dan, again, I want to commend you for what you've done, but I'm real conservative. So if something happens to the bond market, do we have an escape clause that we would be able to borrow the whole money and lock it in at a certain rate in case something happened?
I'm moving. If you notice, this loan agreement's dated July 1st. I estimate we won't need it till August, okay? Everything's based on estimates. We've got great weather going right now, so the construction's going hard and heavy, but a rain delay or something could slow the progress down. What I'm doing, my goal is by middle of June, the next couple of fiscal court, I have all the various loan pieces in place, meaning I have a meeting scheduled May 4th with the Department for Local Government to approve our debt. And so by July 1st, we'll have this debt in place, and we'll have the ability to pull the trigger, as I call it, on the other bonds. So if the market moves, and it looks like it's moving and it's going in a negative direction, I may come back here and say, hey, I want to do both bonds, $17 million in August and let's pull the trigger. And we can probably get to market and fund it in about 3 weeks. That's where I'm trying to do everything up to that point.
Well, I knew you had an escape clause. I just
Okay.
was trying to get the people of Oldham County to feel safe at what you're doing, but I knew that I know you know what you're doing, so that was just a question just for the people of Oldham County. Thank you.
Are there any other questions for Mr. Clark? So this discussion here will constitute our first reading of this ordinance. It's for a line of credit of $5 million at Stockyards Bank, and we will put this first reading on our county website. Anybody in the community will be able to read it and get the details, and then at the May 3rd meeting, we'll have another discussion and take a vote. So, all right, thank you. The next item on our agenda here today is going to be a public hearing regarding Old Zering Road, the suggestion that it be discontinued as a county road. Public hearing constitutes several steps where we have testimony that's invited from those who wish to close the road and those who may wish to see it remain open. Everybody will be given an opportunity to testify. Everybody who speaks will be asked to take an oath that they agree to tell the truth. And I ask everyone who speaks here today to please do not leave until the end of the meeting. You may be called back for a comment, discussion, or a question, so please stay. First, to open the public hearing now, I'm going to call on our county engineer, Beth Stuber.
Do you need to swear staff?
Pardon?
You need to swear staff?
I guess, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Okay, because I have quite a bit to show you, I decided to put it on a PowerPoint this time. So we're talking about the Old Zering Road closure. I presented a petition to you all a couple meetings ago to go forward with the procedure. It doesn't say we're going to close it, but just to go forward with the procedure. So we placed an ad in the paper for the public hearing, which is today. We posted 3 signs at prominent locations in the area as required by the KRS. We also put a committee together of 3 people, of which the county engineer is one, to look at the road and determine whether it was of public use, and we reported that it did not have significant public use, given the section. Now, I believe the applicant will make a more detailed presentation, but I assume everyone knows that we're talking about a section of gravel road west of Highway 329. There's a large section of Old Zering that is not under consideration. This is a topographic map from about 1919. There is state statute that basically says if a road was established in our county before 1915, it is a county road by default. And so this is the earliest I could get was in 1919, but it does show the road right in that area. Right to the north there. The next map that I have, several maps I have, were prepared by the State Department of Highways over the years that show the location of Old Zering Road. This is another map that they put together to document all the county roads. It's similar, they still do it. It's how we get a lot of our state funding. Again, you'll see Old Zering Road right there, right above that line.
What are the dots? What are the dots?
Please?
What are the dots on that were next to the road? I'm sorry.
It shows that it was the surface that was on the road at the time, which is chip and seal, I think, on that particular spot. Here's the one from 55. Very little's changed. Here's the one from 97. Although the area has changed, the road itself is not dramatically different. And then you also see where it's calling it the U of L Horner Wildlife Refuge there in the rear. This is a list off of the 97 map that lists Old Zering has County Road 1240. That's all that I have.
All right, what was the recommendation of your
That it
committee?
shows no public use and that it can be closed.
Thank you. The next presentation will be by the representative of the applicant, Mr. Clubb.
Thank you, Judge.
We have a maximum of 50 minutes.
I hope to not take anywhere near that. Mr. Carter, Court. My name is Josh Clubb. I'm an attorney with Bramwell and Clubb. We have an office here in LaGrange at 206 North 2nd Street. I appreciate you all giving me the time in the afternoon to present this petition formally on behalf of the petitioners. Some of those petitioners are here with me. I represent.
I forgot to administer the oath to you.
Sure, Judge.
Okay. You solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
So help you God.
I represent, let me pull my slide up here, my presentation. There are three petitioners that have submitted the petition. I believe it was probably turned over to the court. I believe we had a meeting sometime in January, and I believe that Ms. Stuber presented that to the court a couple of meetings ago, as she stated. That petition was signed on behalf of the three entities that own property that both this road crosses as well as this road serves. Those three, and there are only three, those three entities are Reliable Partners, LLC, which is owned by the Rector family. And I have with me today Dan Rector, as well as his wife and daughter, who will be happy to answer any questions if you all have questions for them. Rogers Group, who you all may know as Oldham County Stone, as well as the University of Louisville. They have also signed off on the petition and have given their blessing to this petition. We have here from the University of Louisville, Dr. John Kilcoff, who mans the observatory that's located on the U of L property. He has probably the lengthiest, I can't say the word, the longest knowledge of the use of this road. I apologize. A month ago or so, I had sent the judge a code. There's a locked gate, which you'll see a picture of in a moment on my presentation. I hope that was distributed to you guys, and everyone who wanted an opportunity to go view this road has had a chance to do so. If you haven't, I have pictures. This opening slide actually has a pretty representative picture of what this road looks like. I think Daniel Boone may have actually walked on that particular portion the way it looks. What we're speaking about here is approximately a 2-mile section of road, and we're not exactly sure where that road ends. Ms. Stuber's map showed it ending a little bit sooner than what you'll see on the aerial presentation that I have prepared in a moment. But we're asking that road be closed pursuant to KRS Chapter 178, specifically sections 178.070 and 178.116. Approximately 1.7 miles of that road travels through the Reliable Partners property that my client purchased in the last couple of years from the Horner family. Part of that road, just a very small portion, actually passes over the quarry property. You can't access the quarry from it. I believe the grade there is pretty steep, but it does actually pass over a portion of the Rogers Group property, and that's why we've included them as a petitioner. Approximately 3/10 of a mile would proceed back to the observatory on the U of L property, although the map that Ms. Stuber indicated may show that it ends at the U of L line. We're not sure, but as the slides progress, I think you'll see that may not be that big of an issue. As I've already stated, Reliable Partners, Rogers Group, and the University of Louisville are the only owners of this property. The University of Louisville property was donated around 1974. It was in the 60s. There was an agreement with the Horner family that property would not be sold or used for any commercial or residential development, which obviously, when you'll see in a minute, if you've been back there, it has not been. The Reliable Partners property. One of the reasons, there may have been several, but one of the reasons I think Reliable Partners bought the property is because Rogers Group, which mines limestone on the adjoining property, actually had a lease with the Horner family going back several years. A significant portion of the Horner property has actually already been mined of limestone. More than half of the property, or approximately 1/2 of the property, is also in a conservation easement, a deeded conservation easement that will prohibit that property from ever being developed. If anybody's been back the road, and again, we'll see pictures in a moment, there is a locked gate about 2/3 of the way back the road from the point that we propose to close the road. Has some padlocks on it. Road's very narrow all the way back, but in this area, when you get to the gate, you either have the code to go through it, to go back to the University of Louisville Observatory, or you back out the road. You can't even turn around at the locked gate. My slide says that that gate has been locked for at least 24 years, and that information that I put in my slide was based off of a former tenant on the Horner property who said he moved there 24 years ago and that gate existed locked 24 years ago. The professor who's here today will tell you, if anyone asks, that when the observatory was opened in 1974, that gate already existed and was locked at that time. And actually, I believe at that time there was a cable in an approximate location of the location we proposed to close the road today that was also locked. At some point, that cable and lock was taken down so that you could go back to the locked farm gate as it currently exists. You'll see pictures again. As you can imagine, there are numerous issues that my client has with this property and concerns. I think they would also be concerning to the county or any one of the magistrates if such a road crossed your property. There's no one back there. It is a hangout for dumping. There are dumps on the property. I have a picture of a few, but nobody's going to see you if you want to go back there and dump something. Vandalism. The quarry has equipment in the area that could easily be accessed off of Old Jane Road. There's trespassing as recently as this week. I believe Dr. John saw some people out the property that were trespassing, left a note on their car that's a continuing concern. There's drug usage in the area as well as wildlife poaching. This is a wildlife refuge basically, and all of those things are going on there basically without police patrol or with any property owners out there to call the police if those things are going on in the middle of the night. Oldham County, Ms. Stuber and I have spoken. I'm not sure what the amount of money that this court spends on a yearly basis to maintain Old Jane Road, but basically whatever you are spending is tantamount to spending money to maintain a private driveway. This property serves only two parties, Reliable Partners and the University of Louisville, and they will tell you that they have not been wanted to be worrisome to the county, and they've tried to take care of this road to the best of their ability, both by applying snow, putting their own gravel down, cleaning up dumps, taking care of things, trimming limbs up on the property for years. And they've done that exclusively past the locked farm gate that is approximately the last 1/3 of the property. And that's not to say that the county has not also been out there and spent money, but whatever the county is spending, it's not being used for development, it's not being used for a practical purpose, we would say. Finally, if you've seen the road, you'll see pictures. Old Jane Road was not built to county standards. If this road existed in 1919 or even before then, my guess is, from looking at it, it's probably not much improved from that time. The Planning Commission downstairs, Planning and Development, as well as this body, would not allow anyone to develop anything, a new development, on a road such as this. Drainage on the sides of the road is not adequate. It's not wide enough for people to pass. Once you get on the road, you can't even turn around without trespassing on the Reliable Partners properties, which is what anyone who is back this road has to do to turn around and go back out to 329. The property owners, University of Louisville and Reliable Partners, have agreed, if this court chooses to close the road, to enter into an easement. We've already drafted that. I believe we furnished a copy of the proposed easement with our petition that will allow the University of Louisville unfettered access to reach their property. So there won't be a concern that any current landowners back there would be shut out. The petitioners will relieve the county from whatever expense they have spent and would continue to spend indefinitely on this road if you choose to close it. And there's also a cemetery on the property, I believe was talked about at your last meeting. It's actually behind the gate that's been locked for 24 or 40-some years at this point. Those people, family members and others who have wanted to go back to that cemetery have always been allowed access, and they will continue to be allowed access. Now, I'll go into that just a little bit more in a minute. Again, I know there may be some concern here. Magistrate Sparks, Magistrate Lawson brought those up at the last meeting about future development. Obviously, this road doesn't go anywhere. It dead ends. I'm not sure where, if anywhere, it ever went. That passageway has long been closed. But certainly, in the unlikely event that the University of Louisville or the Rector family chose to develop this property, and at this point, I don't even know how feasible that is given the restrictions put on the donation of land to the University of Louisville. or the fact that this, the Rector family property, the Reliable Partners property, has been mined and is also in a conservation easement. If they were to develop that property, obviously they would have to build the road back to county standards, and that road would then be dedicated back to the county in the unlikely event that were to happen. Having said all that, I've got some pictures. I'll try to go through them fairly quickly. If you'll have any questions for me or the Rector family or Dr. Kilcoff, certainly feel free to ask those whenever you feel it's necessary. This is an aerial map that we had Jeff Meyer, our surveyor, prepare of the property and the general location of the road. You'll see it doesn't. We've only got the road listed where we propose to close it down, so it's several hundred yards off of Highway 329. Basically, in this area is where we would propose to put the gate to close the road. You'll see some slides in a minute of the turnaround area there. Some other points of interest is you see this road travels entirely through the Rector property. The Rector property, or the Reliable Partners property, excuse me, is basically this green line. The locked gate that has been in existence since about 1974 is approximately in this area. And you see the road does continue approximately a third of its distance back to the U of L Observatory from that area. The U of L property line, U of L property is outlined in red, I guess appropriately. There is a cemetery on the property. We call it the Babbitt Cemetery. Several of the headstones are still there, located in the area of a rock wall. That cemetery, it's not real legible on that, but it's basically, I'll make an X, it's basically in that area. And at the very end of the road, at the end of that red line, here is the U of L Observatory. Actually, it's just above that circle that I made. If you haven't been back there, there's a red sign just as you would see at the University of Louisville campus that identifies all the buildings. It's kind of misplaced, but it's there, trust me. This is a view of the road from the last two property owners on Old Jane Road. You can basically see a T in the road. The T to the right goes to the Rogers Group property, the Oldham County Stone property. The road to the left is a private entrance to the Reliable Partners property. We would propose to put the gate just on the other side of that, what looks like a dark black spot in the middle of that T. This is a little bit closer view. You'll see a chain link fence to the left that keeps you from going to the Reliable Partners property. There's a similar gate and that would prevent access from going on the Rogers Group property for obvious reasons to the right. You just can't see that from the picture. But this would be the location of the proposed gate. My client has a gate at another access to the Reliable Partners property. This is a picture of that gate. We would propose putting up a very similar gate. I'm not sure if it would be the exact width, but this would be the gate that we would propose to put at that location if you all were to grant our petition. Obviously, the University of Louisville has people that come to the property that may not have an access code to the gate. There will be an electronic pad. I'll show you that in just a second. There will be a manned 24-hour phone number that will be put on the sign. This is a picture of the sign. There's a closer up view of that sign. Anyone that would need access to that property can call that number 24 hours a day. They can be given an access code, told they have no business on the property, I suppose, or they could remotely open that gate, should that be the case. Members of the Babbitt family would also, obviously, we can't stop them and have no desire to stop them when we never have, would have the opportunity to visit this cemetery whenever they want. Dr. John has let them through for years. They've actually been back and decorated those graves. They'll continue to have that right instead of having to get out of the car and unlock a gate with padlocks on it. At this point, they'll be able to punch in their access code they have one, or they can call the exact same number that the University of Louisville will have for their sign. It's a call service that my client is agreeing to pay for to get them back to that cemetery. It's a keypad, not much to see there. It's just a typical section of Old Jane Road. The road does pass through a few open fields. The majority of those are past the locked gate, but most of the road is through wooded area with steep fallways to the right and the left, just as in this picture. Didn't want to belabor the point, but obviously there are dumps on the property. This is a culvert that crosses the property. There are numerous items that have been dumped there. There are other tires and such dumped along the road if you were to go out there and look. But this is just an example of what's going on there. Erosion and washout into the forest. There's also a picture of typical. We could take easy half dozen of these pictures. And not to say that the county's not taking care of them. I know they have other things to do, but these are issues that obviously continue on a gravel road like this that the county at this point would be responsible to repair and replace as time goes on. Trees fall on the property, goes through the woods. This is a picture of some of the property owners removing trees, which obviously, when you've got that many trees in a 2-mile stretch of road, happens oftentimes, and the property owners, instead of calling the county, have been taking care of that. This is just one example of that. This is actually a shot off of Old Jane Road looking over onto the Oldham County Stone property. Thrill seekers are also a concern of my clients. There's a high wall here where the mine actually goes over onto the corner property, the Reliable Partners property. That's a high voltage transformer. It's right around that fence there. Obviously, theft is a concern, as well as danger to people who are passing by that don't know there's a high wall there that may be trespassing for whatever reason, whether they be thrill seeking or theft or wildlife poaching. This picture of the locked gate. As you can see, there's posts on both sides, trees all around. You can't get past that gate if you don't have the code. And at that point, it is still a county road, and that gate has apparently been up for 42 years at this point. It's a picture of one of the headstones. This cemetery appears to date back to the mid-19th century as far as the latest burials that are there. There are headstones in the forest. There's a rock wall that Mr. Rector and I had thought was the cemetery, and the headstones were moved out. I believe Dr. Kilcoff would disagree with that maybe the cemetery actually was outside the walls. You see those headstones. Regardless, there is a cemetery there that's recognized by my clients, and we would have no problem with anyone accessing that, but they would be provided reasonable access at any time. This is a picture. This is the dead end at the U of L Observatory. There's the red sign that I spoke about. You may be familiar with if you've been to the University of Louisville campus. That is occupied, I believe, most every day, and has been for a period of 40 years or so. So there's an observatory there. There are a few buildings there. For the most part, the University of Louisville property is wooded and is a wildlife refuge. Final slide. I'll be done 20 minutes early. I know that disappoints everyone here. Is that as we see it, and we hope you all would agree, and obviously Ms. Stuber and her committee of disinterested observers have agreed, this road serves no current or foreseeable public use. Sure, it's pretty, but it is a private driveway, more or less, that goes through the University of Louisville and the Reliable Partners property. Nobody has any reason to be back there. They can't even turn around when they go back there without trespassing. Whatever the county is spending on this road, it's diverting it from other, you all talked about budget items here tonight. I'm sure you could find a lot of places to stick this money other than a private gravel drive that serves 2 property owners. If left open, the property owners will expect this to be a properly maintained road. Again, Reliable Partners and the Rector family have just recently acquired this property. If it's going to be a county road and we're going to deal with trespassers and we're going to deal with dumps and all that, I think it's only fair that they would expect the county to take care of their responsibility. And finally, the county does have liability for crushed stones, snow removal, fallen trees, grading, replacing culverts that go by. There are numerous culverts in the area, police patrols, which have been scanned at this point, as well as garbage and illegal dump removal. So we appreciate your time and consideration. I have, again, Dr. Kilcoff from the University of Louisville, as well as Mr. Rector, his wife and daughter here to answer any questions. If you have any questions of me, certainly I'll be happy to take those whenever the proper time is.
All right, thank you, Mr. Clubb.
Thank you, Judge.
The next thing we're going to do here is we're going to accept testimony from those who are opposing the application. I'd like to ask everybody who is here to oppose this application to please stand. Okay, I'll modify what I said just a little bit. Here to oppose the application and who is going to testify. If you want to speak, please remain standing. Would you raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? I do. Please be seated, and the first speaker is welcome.
Judge, I'd like to...
This is George Parrish, and what's your address, George?
7611 Highway 329, Brownsburg, Kentucky, 40014. Okay. And at this time, I'd like to represent I'm the president of the Brownsburg Community Center, and A little later, I'd like to represent myself. I've had a chance to turn around. I go way back 77 years. And folks, the last time I guess I faced this court was about 43, 44 years ago. I left a little pad on there, if you'll see, an article of the bylaws of the Brownsburg Community Center. As I was trying to get this under, also there's a pamphlet there that shows our brief history of that center. Comes from an old Brownsburg College, started in about approximately 1868. It's been used extensively ever since. I'm very proud, and it's hard to keep that thing operating, especially under some conditions like I'm facing today, and I'm sorry that I have to be here, but I came here in 1973. It tells you, I think, what date. I came about December to get your approval. If this center ever ceased to be a viable operation, that you would hold it and Oldham County be turned over to Oldham County, Kentucky to help for the Brownsboro 4-H Club and the Poplar Grove Homemakers Club, which are actually the roots of the center going way back up to the 1943 when they closed the school there. And I'm sorry that I have to be here this evening, but I'll go back to this parent company. Our neighbors across the road, the community center, I'm representing the board of directors now this evening for the Brownsburg Community Center. And I have a petition, or rather a resolution. I think each one of you all got an email, but I'd like to read it. Dated on March the 25th, 2016, certified mail, 7015-3010. 0001-3581-0924, Oldham County Fiscal Court, Honorable David Vogel, Judge Executive, Oldham County, LaGrange, Kentucky. Dear Dave, resolution of the Board of Directors of the Brownsburg Community Center. If I could read it off here, you could read it on the board. Be it resolved that the board is opposed to any proposed closing of Ozering Road west of Kentucky Highway 329 for a distance of approximately 2 miles, which contain approximately 7 1/4 acres of the most beautiful country in this Commonwealth, and given an out-of-state corporation the power to control and ingress and egress with the U of L bird wildlife sanctuary. This 200-year-old road was the original stagecoach road. Many of our villagers' founders are buried in a cemetery dating back to the 1700s, approximately 1.5 miles back. This road from Kentucky Highway 329. The road means so much to many of our members as their parents started housekeeping on farms off this road. We worked hard on these farms and enjoyed an occasional drive back to our beginnings. We have lost much of our annual festival parking, fireworks, and hay rides, grounds that were offered and provided by our next door corporation over the past few years that were certainly appreciated using. We have worked to overcome this adversity and to keep our community center and village healthy using Old Zering Road now for our hay rides. Recently, we had a member that took her college graduate daughter back on Old Zering Road to show her where she played with neighbors when she was growing up and had traveled less than 1/4 mile when she was stopped by an oncoming vehicle, and the man screamed at them, "Get out of here. You have no business here." This scared him tremendously, and he followed him out the road. Also, this happened to our festival chairman as he was laying out our hayride route approximately 5 years ago. He smoothed it over so he had a young person with him. This individual, I was understood, somebody told me it was out of the University of Louisville. And that individual was me. "What are you doing here? What are you doing here?" "We're ready for a hayride, later for a festival." And I've only been there like 70 years, and he's been there maybe 10 years back there. And it's a historic road and has served our village well for 200 years and is very vital to our community and center. Once gone, always gone. George Parish Chair, Secretary Betty Reagan, sworn and subscribed by Christy McCormick, and a copy emailed to all you squires. Thank you very much. This corporation came in across the center, and the head of the corporation was a very fine gentleman, is a very fine gentleman. And I look back at some old records. He was on our festival. If you got the little flyer, it'll tell you about we try to maintain this festival. Nobody gets paid. And any net earnings come into the festival goes back into the building and whatever. And no, anyway, he was on the chairman board. We used parking across the road for parking. We used to have the Thunder over Oldham County. The Thunder over Louisville took us over. We couldn't compete with them. And then we even had air shows over there. I don't know what. And everything was great. We worked with them. We took their blasting, their noise, and so on and so forth. We didn't say anything. The asphalt plant came up with the smell, even a concrete plant lately. But all at once, about, I don't know, I can't keep up, 7, 8 years ago, my hayride chairman called me. He said, George, he said, somebody told me we can't have hayrides. And he, at this time, him and his son was taking care of manicuring property over there around the underground when they went underground storage. And so I called someone and I said, one day the notice is kind of rough on us, isn't it? So we got that worked out. And it wasn't very long later that their top salesman and public relations man really worked real fine with us. He was out of a job. And so I called an individual of the company and I said, I better plan on this festival. So what's going on? Well, George, things of time, all good things come to an end. We can't get on the property no more. Well, I had no parking places where I'd use for my engine shows and tractor shows and auto shows. I took my field, made parking. I worked out with a church where we could use a tram to overflow parking. I crammed all this show area into part of our grounds area in the front of the track. But we got by. But it's made some people in bad spirits. We had to park all these vehicles that would come to all these displays there, had to walk back a half a mile from Ozering Road right to where you want to close it or they want to close it. And it just hadn't worked out. But we got by. We took our hay rides back Ozering Road. And I worked back there when I was a kid on both of these farms. I hauled milk out of this first farm. We put a pay for Mr. Ben Randez out on a back farm. It goes back to about U of L. And I was very familiar with the family. It was Ross Seed Company owned the old U of L property. And Miss Horner, Bob Horner, that owned this property up to just this last year, both his mother bequested that, and it's through a trust as to something should be lost into too. That is involved in a trust with PNC Bank with U of L. And I haven't been able to find out what is involved in that trust, and it takes quite a bit to get into it. But I do know, what I understand, when it first went in, it was for an observatory, and they do have a couple of telescopes back there. And I heard years ago that when East Louisville came out, like the Ford truck plant, all that lighting, it wasn't working too well. And then it seemed like everything went into a wildlife and bird refuge, or bird and wildlife sanctuary, they call it. But I knew the family was raised back there. This cemetery, those stones on the outside, I just found out last week from a gentleman who was born back there, raised there in that old house as they tore down. Those were graves on the outside of that cemetery wall. And a gentleman named Bill Eddings lives in Ohio County was telling me about that. And I thought his sister was going to be here today. She's not made it. But anyway, I've been a constable 35 years. I just ride back there. You go back there at 4 o'clock and it's all wound up, and it's just beautiful country. And no problem at all where this gate is so-called locked across the road with about 6 key locks on it. Turn around, come back, and you're just in a different frame of mind. It's just beautiful country. And later on I'll get into more, but that is the vital part. And then the old store that my son owns there, I've been trying to restore it. And there was a stagecoach stop, and there was a Civil War massacre on their front porch. And my granddad had a blacksmith shop next door. And that was the main road from east to west to Louisville through there. At one time, that was quite a town. I understand it was larger than Louisville. Had a big resort hotel back there that burned, I don't know what, Rock Springs or something like that. And then just beautiful country. I hate to see, you know, we worked so hard to keep things going in history in Brownsboro and that over life. Just hate to see it going, but I'd like to say there was quite a few. I got a copy of this pamphlet here. I'd like to go over it, have a little time. Inconsistencies in this thing. And I've got some pictures to contradict and so on and so forth about it. If you would let me, I appreciate it. Okay. Okay, there's a little page. If you look right down the bottom of that book on the right, you can see it. A little page number 2. The first page, you see it, little 2. Okay, on that one, there's cemetery. Let's see. Okay. Okay, I'd like to show you a state map. I'm sorry.
You want to put it on the overhead so it'll be bigger up here, maybe you can see it better?
Yeah, this right here?
Yeah.
Okay, right, okay. I scratched on somebody. It is, okay. Does anybody, I have a map here. I was at an auction. If anybody would like, I'd like to show it to them. There were some questions brought up about whether this actually was a county road. I don't think I've heard them mentioned today, but I've got a copy, and I blew it up as big as I could. I had some old maps that I got from an auction somewhere, and I found all these different counties, and I run into Oldham County. It's dated, it's a general highway map, Oldham County, Kentucky, prepared by the Kentucky Department of Highways Division of Planning in cooperation with the U.S. Department of Transportation, Federal Highway Administration, Bureau of Public Roads. And this date is 1963, and revisions 1169. And at that time, this little map, I don't know what it shows you. I'd be glad to show you all one. Okay, there it is. This yellow line right here, it shows old, that's the Ozarian Road that we're talking about. And if you go on up to your right, Ozarian Road comes on up and comes into Cedar Point up in this point. This sure is, I blew it up as much as I could, but still small. And if you see, it says Ewellville Wildlife Sanctuary there. And then at that time, if you see, 71 is only completed from the Jefferson County line to the rest area, if you notice that. That's the time. So that's a revised map. The last one I got in 1969, an official highway map of state, county roads, or whatever. Okay. I can't see the page. Really? Okay, page 4. Approximately 1/3 of the length of Ozarian Road has been blocked by a block gate for at least the past 24 years. That's approximately 1/8 of a mile that's been blocked there. Ozarian Road is run somewhere in the neighborhood of probably about 7 miles all the way through. It's just a misprint right there, for one thing. Okay. Okay, this portion of Ozarian Road is a haven for juvenile hangout, dumping, vandalism, trespassing, drug usage, and wildlife poaching. Folks, I keep an eye on that road pretty well. I've been a constable for 35 years. I see someone going back in there, I'm pretty well with them, and see if there's any problems going or whatever. And I don't hardly ever see anyone back in there. I mean, just ever seen one. But anyway, let's see. Concerning that gate, I have a letter here, backdated. Let's see if I can get it out here. I'll show it on the screen here. There you go. Can y'all read that? Okay. That's a certified mail that I wrote on October 2nd, 2002, and to John Harrison, Oldham County Surveyor, 306 West Jefferson, LaGrange, Kentucky, 40331. Dear John, I'm writing you concerning Ozering Road west of intersection of Kentucky 329 at Brownsburg, approximately 1 3/10 miles to the gate of University of Louisville Horner Wildlife Refuge. I was told by Mr. Robert Horner, who owns property on both sides of Ozering Road at this point, that this road belongs to Oldham County. John, can you officially tell me that Ozering Road ends at this point? Sincerely. And I copied it. I got both of you may want to see them. John's picked it up, and also Oldham County Fiscal Court right here. I never got received an answer on that. At that time, I was preparing, which I have been working strong on the old store, the old two-story historical store there in Brownsburg my son owns, to restore a museum, country store museum. I've got the post office. I don't know what office in there. The post office left there in 1906. My grandfather died there in 1910 died with flu epidemic, and he had a blacksmith shop. And at that time, I'll show you a picture of where I buried this fellow back there on his farm. There's my team. They've been to LaGrange County Parade several times, and that where I buried George Fribert. They couldn't get him up to his farm to give rides back there. So I asked Mr. Horner, Mr. Horner, do you own this road? No, sir, I don't own that road. And he owned that road up to last year. So to clarify, there's no change really as far as who's owned the road. It's individuals on both sides, whatever, as that road being opened. And okay, on page 4, paragraph 2, dumping illegal dump caused by concrete company by former owner of property left on side of the road for years. And it's not really a haven for hangout juveniles now. Back in 1970, what happened, when 71 was built, Newton Stone then, which became Oldham County Stone, bought the person right across from the community center. And I can't remember, it was Mid-South Materials, Vulcan Materials, someone got a portion of 71, and they leased this property on the left side of the road, which was the Algar farm, which would be Carruthers Farmer that the Gorbans ran. And they went in there, Mr. Horner, and leased his mineral rights. And they took and just made a big hole back there. They got through with 71, they pulled out. When they did, these kids coming out of U of L, well, out of Louisville, boy, that's a haven for them. I mean, boy, it was wild, believe me, back there in the 70s. But Oldham County Stone, or rather Newton Stone at the time, had an armed guard. And they kept it off of their property, I'll say that. But that was a wild activity back there. But then, when they left, there was some little asphalt plant came in there, lasted 2 or 3 years off and on. And then they pulled it out. Matter of fact, it was just cleaned up like 4 or 5 years ago. The Rogers Group, I understand, leased their property, the mineral rights or whatever, and they mined under there. When you've seen that wall back there, we'll get to in a few minutes, that's why they built that wall in there to make a tunnel under that road. But as far as illegal activity back there, it's very little that I can find. And okay. And I understand that there's a interchange planned, I don't know where it's at in the highway plan or not, just past 71 South, and that dip down there, somewhere in that area around Hounds Lane, for an intersection to bypass Crestwood, Brownsboro, whatever, going towards Prospect. It's been a talk, I've heard it talk about quite a bit. I don't know when that happened. That's right down this property practically. Okay. Very little maintenance on the road is lost the last few years. I mean, I've been traveling that road, and back up to, we didn't have a road department. Lonnie Broyles run one road grader we had, and then each magistrate would have their own work done, shovel work, whatever, mowing on the highway. I used to mow a little tractor about that wide, some of the District 7s and all that. My son got eat up one day. I got eat up with a bug with the hornets hit me on the track. I had my son run to get out of the way, man, get out of there, it hit me. But anyway, I haven't seen hardly any maintenance at all on this road. I'll tell you the truth. It's really been bad. And I just wonder, is the county getting any mineral tax rights off of this property? I know y'all still get revenue off the river gravel.
Yes.
Well, I wonder about this. When I sold fertilizer, I had to feed and seed store in Brownsboro. 50 cents of every ton went back to the state for research. And then any minerals, wherever they came from, was a county that's supposed to get a portion of something. What if y'all ever got into any of that?
I can't answer that question directly. We do receive a mineral reimbursement, and I would assume that this is part of it, from Rogers and the Lighters.
Okay, good. Okay. This road stood for nearly 300 years and has had some very heavy traffic from Indiana Gas Company. Back when their public relations man was back there with me one day, right past where this tunnel was showed, I'll show you a little bit later, Donna, there was a gentleman came up there, we were talking. By that time we had to change our hayride positions. And he said, y'all got to move your equipment, so on and so forth. Well, Rogers Group had put a lateral right beside that, we showed a chain link fence a minute ago, so a lateral to come up onto Old Zaring Road. And they had huge high pressure gas tanks lines, pipe was unloaded over on their property, Well, what they did when the company, Indiana Gas, got ready, they came up on this property and came up on that road at that point and go on back to the back. And I'm telling you, those big dozers, big, huge D9s and big cranes that hang that pipe down in there was all in. And I mean, my crankcase would actually drain, would drag as I was going back there. That wasn't no good on the road. And I talked to the magistrate at that time and told him about it, and they had taken a bunch of big riffraff in places and put all over this corner of the roads where they could get that big pipe through there. And they clogged all those drains on the road too, you know. But someone filled them in over the years. But it's not in all that bad shape, but they hadn't had that much maintenance, to tell you the truth. Page 5, I say.
George, I'm going to stop you right now and say this, that this portion of the hearing has a total allocation of 50 minutes. You are at approximately half of the 50 minutes right now, so you can't consume 50 minutes yourself. You have to leave time for the other people who were here to speak in opposition to have an opportunity, unless they want to yield their time to you.
Okay, so. I'll lose some time here then. Page 6. For the last 24 years, the previous owners take essentially time responsible for maintaining a road in a timely manner, fixing damaged culverts, hundreds, and so forth. That was a gas line. In the unlikely event a property were to be developed in the future, required to build a road to county standards, this road would then be dedicated back to the county. I have the time keeping up these 2 pages here. Okay, I've got gas company.
George, could you let your other people speak real quick?
Sorry.
Let's maintain the point of order here, please.
I'll get right through, yeah. I'll say it later, Steve.
You can't do that.
I'm just trying to encourage him to
Okay.
let him speak while he looks up his stuff.
I'll get on through here. Let me show you a picture of this one. Right here, and I'll try to find this up as soon as I can. Oh, the chain links, where we see that, it's on back in here. I'll have to get on back, so I'll get on through with it. But also where that, where the gate was locked back there, that's what I wrote on to the county. engineer. Here's another copy of the gate. If you'll see, on both sides, actually on the county property line, as soon as they bought this property, I counted approximately 34 signs from Ozering Road, where they proposed to close it at that dip, back to this 1 1/10 miles to this gate right here. And my uncle was magistrate back when they came in and gave him free water for about 10 years and rented his house for the superintendent over there for a number of years. And then there was a culvert down at where they proposed to shut this road off. There was a wooden bridge there. And he gave him permission to take that bridge out and put a big culvert, huge culvert. That's when they put the asphalt plant in. And if you get back into some records on this and draw it, that asphalt plant, when it was agreed to, supposed to use that driveway coming out of there, really. And another thing, I'll get on back here somewhere. Okay, here's a property where it's going to be shut. I got a picture here I want to show you all. Back last year, I was at the last business going back on the right. And some talk about guys being arrested back there and all this, running everybody off, running all this on and off. And so anyway, I called and I talked to the magistrate. Mr. Dye is a magistrate on the west side of 329. And I count, we've got 5 residents right in Brownsboro that otherwise the magistrate before him took all of the east side of 329 and put us in District 8, left him in District 7. And anyway, most of all of our folks are on the west side of the road in the old village. And that has us speaking to as far as the center and so on and so forth. But anyway, I heard about it. And I go back, I see they're putting all the fence back of this 60-foot right-of-way they had to get to that new quarry they bought. And you come back here and I see 2 galvanized posts that you see right here down there. And these guys are working on the fence. I said, what's going on? He said, we're locking this off. This is in July. We're closing this off on August the 1st. We're closing it off. I said, it's a county road. And so anyway, I came to LaGrange the next day when I did with the post removed that evening. But I don't know who gave the permission, whatever, without any hearing whatsoever on it. But that road is very, very dear to us there. I'll tell you, it's very vital as far as the history in Brownsboro, and also as part of U of L under this trust. And I don't know, it's going to be awful hard to justify the historical part. I'm not going to hold you all too much longer here, but I wish you would think of long and hard, not before. It'd be like, what was that old town down in western Kentucky, Paradise, Kentucky? Peabody, Mr. Peabody bought them. Well, we're in a situation right here. And once gone, always gone. And I appreciate y'all thinking a whole lot, because there's not any maintenance to speak of back there. If the road grader goes through there and keeping it clean, and it's beautiful country back there. I mean, we have no parks over there, no parks whatsoever. And I just don't know how we're going to exist with the center, to tell you the truth, without it. And I sure don't want no riff-raff. I wish we had to come to where there was always signs posted back there, the farmers, you know, restricted and restricted. But now you should see it. These 10 metal signs all over the place. Yeah. Of all things, I don't want no riff-raff running back in there, you know. Keep it a beautiful, clean country. If you want to ride back your old frame of mind, you're there. And it sure has put a hardship on us over at the center. And thank you very much for your time, and appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next person who would like to speak, come forward, and going to ask you to give us your name and address, please.
My name is Dean Hedges, And my address is 7606 Highway 329 in Brownsboro. And I support George and all his efforts and the historical education of the road. I own the building, the landscape operation, and the irrigation operation at the corner of 329 and Old Zaring Road. And I also own the building, lease the building on the other side of the street, right across from the old general store, which is a thriving, busy firm that moved here from Florida. It's called Oak Island Attraction. And they employ approximately 35 to 40 people. It's a very busy enterprise they have going there. And they're, in addition to George's historical concerns, that road, we've spent, me being in the landscaping business, a lot of drainage and improvements on the drainage and water flow because we get a lot of watershed across our properties that needs to be managed going back Old Zaring Road. So in terms of maintaining that road, I don't think I'd be out of line in claiming that I've done a substantial amount of maintaining that, and I've talked to Ms. Stuber about it a number of times. But my concern in closing the road is the last house on the left I have under contract to purchase also, 7900 Old Zaring Road. And I'm involved in commercial real estate more or less on those corners. And Oak Island, my main client, brings tractor trailers in there. And they go down to the end and they turn around and then come out. And I would hate to have them to have to back out onto 329. And that's what they would be doing in the event, especially in the picture that George shows, where those posts were, that gate was before the T in the road as opposed to after the T in the road. So I'm wondering if that side, if the west side of Old Zaring Road gets closed down, what happens to the asphalt part of it? Because I anticipate more and more traffic flow, not only out of my landscape operation, because I have ingress and egress on Old Zaring Road and onto 329. And that is challenging sometimes when you have trucks and trailers, and we have a lot of deliveries at our location where they might go down to the end of the road, turn around, and then come into our landscape operation. So that is my number one concern in closing the road is the, I don't want, in addition to clients that would be using my property, and when I take possession of the house, 7900, people are going to go down there, they're going to be turning around in my property because they won't have a place to turn around, or they're going to be using Sharp's Automotive, the old abandoned shop there. Which is not being used. They would, or they'll make a big loop through Billy McMakin's rental storage unit, which I don't want to, rely on his property for that. So those are a couple of my concerns, in addition to supporting George and what goes on in Brownsboro with the historicness of the road. My main concern is supporting George and making sure that I don't hamper my client's operation next door, Oak Island Attraction, because in the Christmas time, I help him load 5 to 6, 7 tractor trailer loads of Christmas decorations that get shipped all over the country. And I want to keep making sure that he can function as a warehouse operation that he is.
Okay, thank you,
Okay,
Mr. Hedges.
thank you.
All right, please come forward. Would you please state your name and address?
My name is Lloyd Fisher. I'm an outsider looking in. My address is 1526 Blackston's Mill Road, Clarksville, Indiana. Been a friend of George's for about 25 years, and I've played music at the Brownsboro Festival for about 15 or more years. My main concern, and I can understand both sides of this problem here, because my wife and I have 34 acres of woodland over in Harrison County, Indiana. We know about poaching, we know about trespassing, we know about drug use, all that. But anyhow, that's beside the point. We have seen that Brownsboro Festival go downhill for about the first 3 or 4 or 5 years that we came here and came there and played there. It was okay when we could go down in that cave underneath there where the stone quarry is. It's bigger than anything Louisville has, and they advertise that thing all the time. But when they shut that off, and I don't know for what reason, but anyhow, when they closed that off, the only place they had to go for any hayride, that we used to take the hayrides through there, is the old Zering Road. Well, I can see a couple of reasons. I don't know about the ownership of it, who owns it, whether the county owns it or whether these people own it. But one thing I can see is that the cemetery back in there, in Indiana at least, we have to, by law, cemeteries are protected. And the owner of the property between the cemetery and a state or county road doesn't need to maintain a road back there, but he has to allow people to go back in there in the cemetery. They can walk back, they can do whatever they need to do to get back there, but they have to allow a right-of-way back into the cemetery, whether you got people back there in the cemetery or not. But that's one thing I can see there. As far as the maintenance of the road, yeah, I know about the maintenance of the roads, and it's expensive, but they don't have to maintain it really good. I'm interested mostly in the Brownsboro Festival, where they take a tractor and a farm wagon, and they take people back there on a ride and bring them back out. People like that. But if they take that away from them, I can see that Brownsboro Festival going down to almost nothing, because the people that used to bring their farm machinery in, they don't have any place to park their cars. If they take that away from them, that's a big part of the festival. And the hayride is a big part of the festival, and that is a very historical place back through there, and there's a lot of pretty country back through there in that old road. And I think to the people here, at least, they're in Brownsboro, I should say, there is historical value in that being an old stagecoach road through there. And as far as other people outside of here, most people in Louisville have never heard of Brownsboro, Kentucky. They got Brownsboro Road out there that's developing like crazy coming out of Louisville, but people don't know why, because it doesn't go to Brownsboro. But so anyhow, I can see Brownsboro itself getting squeezed down from all sides, and this is going to squeeze it down some more. So George called me and asked me if I'd come and talk and tell what I think about the situation, and that's about what I think about it. Last year, we do allow 2 or 3 people to hunt deer on our property over there, and they furnish us with venison. I don't have to hunt deer. I got plenty of deer meat. But last year, 7:30 at night, before the deer season opened the next morning, one of the guys that's allowed to hunt in our property heard a high-powered rifle go off twice back in our woods. High-powered rifles aren't allowed to be shot in Indiana, but the big buck they'd been watching all summer was gone. So somebody poached a deer on our property, and that's not the first time something like that's happened. So that's all I've got to say about it.
Thank you. We appreciate your.
Thank you for listening.
All right. Judy, you've got to state your name and address.
Judith Krask at 7415 Highway 329. Been a resident of Brownsboro for over 35 years and a member of the Brownsboro Community Center. And I'm here in support of George Parrish and a few of my neighbors back here too, that we do not want to see it closed. It's a county road, it's once a county road, I think should be maintained as a county road. Even though it's not much travel, I suggest maybe, you put a sign at the entrance, of the, off 329, that one entrance that goes back, all the way back to the Horner Sanctuary, that no turnaround, instead of putting he can have that closed gate that's been up there for 24 years or whatever, but I don't think we should give up a county road. It's not costing the county that much to maintain it since it's a gravel road. And if you did state, I believe there's some mineral rights that they get paid for.
Well,
because of that.
we get a certain amount of,
Which would maintain, I think, for a little bit.
well, but that's underground rights. It doesn't have anything to do with above the ground there.
Okay. And I would like to know, and I don't have to know it today, but since they pointed out there's vandalism and some drug arrests or citations being, just as a resident of Brownsboro, not too far from this road, I'd like to know how many, things are going on back there, like during the night that I don't know about. That's important to me and the rest of my neighbors. If there's something going on, we should probably be aware of how dangerous that is. If that's one of the major problems, they're looking at to close this. So I just appreciate your all's time and effort, and thank you again.
All right, thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak at this point in opposition to this proposal? All right, George.
I'm speaking individually now. I've pretty well been a resident of Brownsboro for 77 years and take the history pretty well, especially this road, this the old historical Stagecoach Road, and we still have the school was built in 1868. It has been no longer a school, but it's been a viable operation and vital part of the community that this road's a part of since 1868. It's still in existence. The old two-room or two-story stagecoach stop, post office, country store, you name it, that my uncle purchased in 1938. There was a Civil War massacre on the front porch, and then my granddad on my dad's side had a blacksmith shop there, and it's just as far as history goes, there's no road that I can think of, and I've traveled the Commonwealth pretty extensive. It's still open. It was a stagecoach road per se, and that property was owned by individuals for all those years right next to them. And matter of fact, this company, the parent company, operated at First Farm for the last 25 or 30 years, I know. And but I would like to make a clarification on page 10. If Joe Wayne McKinney's here, I'd like for him to answer a question for me on this page 10, this gate. Joe, would you mind coming up, see us? I just want him to tell me whose property this is in the back, where this is taken. Proposed gate. Property is back here.
My property there.
Pardon?
This is the other gate.
Right, but whose property is this?
That's my property.
Your property. That's not Ozarian Road, is it?
No.
Okay. That picture is not on Ozarian Road, and it's in there right now. This is the lateral road that was bought to go back to that farm to the left. It was part of Old Apple Patch, the old Osborne farm. Okay, thanks, Joe. Okay, on page 17. Over creek filled with trash. You see that metal ladder right here? That metal ladder sitting there? I called the county road superintendent approximately a year and a half ago I reported that, and also on the other end of Ozering Road, after you pass Glenarm Road, approximately a mile, when it goes down the hill into Darby Creek, as you make that hill over Caitlin's Farm on the right, there's a big old sofa sold over the fence right there. And I told him, well, George, I don't know whether that's our road back there. I said, yeah, it has been our road for many years. Well, there it is. It's still in there today. Now, the couch has been moved, okay? On page 20, I just wonder who this individual is cleaning this tree. I think I do on a tree. I went back there a couple of days ago, and I seen where there's been no maintenance on the road. I don't know when, but it is cut right just where you can get through it. I don't know who that individual is. It said an individual owner. I don't know who he is. But anyway, on page 21, this chain link you're talking about here for a high wall or for protection of this high voltage transformer. That's a transformer, if I'm not mistaken, when he went under that tunnel. That is a corner of the tunnel. This post right here is a corner of that tunnel, and this is a concrete wall like this, and this protects that whole area from anybody jumping over whatever. I want to clarify, that is not really for that high voltage transformer. That's protection to keep anybody from going over that wall where they went through the tunnel there. And, well, folks, it's awful dear to me. That road is and has been for many, many years, and it's not costing hardly anything to keep up. And if anything, I see riffraff going back, I'm going to be right on it for sure. And it's the last thing I want on there. But it just, you're another frame of mind if you want to ride back there at 4 o'clock in the evening and turn around. There's no problem where that gate is. And I don't think that gate's legitimate either, to tell you the truth. But I don't say nothing because I don't want anybody back there destroying anything, you know. Turn around and come back here in another frame of mind. And please give it your top consideration. We appreciate it. Trying to keep this Oldham County history viable. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Are there any other individuals who would like to speak in opposition to the proposal? Yep, please come forward. Ask you to state your name and address, please.
7504 Highway 329, Crystal.
Okay, had you been sworn in before? All right, you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
All I got to say is, why would the county want to give this property away? They don't give you rock. I mean, if we're going to let him close it, let him pay for it.
Well, I'm not here to defend the company.
That's just my view.
This proposal was brought to us by.
If it's county road, the county owns it. Why would the county want to give it away? He bought all this other property.
Well, I'm going to say this, just not in debate.
Well, that's just my view.
Yeah, I understand. They have, Rogers has donated rock to the county, not in relation to this, but over a number of years at the fair and other places. So I don't want that statement to go out that, you know,
Did you know this?
there's no quid pro quo here, but the company has been a good company to be in our county.
I understand that. Did they actually acquire a permit from the county to tunnel under that road?
I don't know that. All right, is there anyone else who would like to speak to? Okay, we'll close that portion of the public hearing now, and we have the next section here is questioning of the applicant by those opposed to the application by the court. Okay, a questioning of the applicant and those opposing by the court. So at this point, are there any members of the court that would like to question any of these people? We'll start with Magistrate Logston.
Yes, Judge, I have a couple questions. Mr. Clubb, I don't know if you're going to speak for your clients, or can they answer a couple questions, or I don't know how you want to handle this.
Depends on the question, but I very well may lean on my client.
Well, okay, well, first of all, do your clients live in Oldham County?
Yeah. You want to swear him in, Judge?
Mr. Rector, do you want to come up here and just give us your name and address, please?
Dan Rector, 805 Rugby Place, Louisville, Kentucky.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Okay, my question was, do any of y'all live in Oldham County that,
None of my family does. A lot of our employees do, but my brother and I live in Louisville right now.
okay, second question. Mr. Clubb said that y'all have caught people trespassing back there. Where do you catch them at?
Usually on Old Zaring Road.
Well, if they're on Old Zaring Road, they're not trespassing.
Well, I'd say that they park there, then they go over to our lakes and our high walls, and we found people with rifles poaching.
Do you call the police?
But they're usually parked on Old Zaring Road.
Do you call the police officers?
We have not. We've only owned the property since last year.
But since you've found some people on there, do you call the police when you find them on there?
We've just run them off at this point.
Okay. Well, I mean, I'm just wondering, because if you're saying there's a whole lot of crime and a lot of stuff going on back there, I'm just trying to build a case to figure out how much is going on. Because if the police officers are not called, how are they going to be able to defend you or defend the property if you own it? That's the only thing I'm trying to figure out.
Right. So I would not characterize it. There's a whole lot of trespassing crime going on, but there definitely is some. We found people on the property, and we found drug needles, beer cans, trash, and things like that. So I don't know how often it happens, but it does happen.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. And also, I can give you the police officer's telephone number, sheriff's departments if you need them when you find people on your property, because you have every right to defend your own property, but you don't have any right to kick somebody off a road that's a county road. Is all I'm saying. And so I guess what my problem is, the road that's going back, the gate, which, I've lived in Oldham County, I'm 53 years old, lived here my whole life, grew up in Brownsboro, Crestwood, Pee Wee Valley area, and that gate's been back there since I was a kid. I've never thought it was illegal to be back there, because that's a county road that goes all the way back to Observatory. The cemetery, I drove back that cemetery. I was doing some work for the PVA office probably 5 years, time gets away, let's say 5 to 8 years ago. I went back there to take a picture of the observatory for tax purposes for the county. It took me a long time to get back there because there's 5 gates, and one day I caught the gate open. I went back there and took a picture of it. But something's happened at that cemetery in the past 8 years, because when I went back there 5 to 8 years ago, there was a lot of tombstones inside that rock wall, and they're not there now. So I don't know what happened to them. There were a lot of Smiths. There were a whole lot more people than just the Babbitts or whoever you are saying is on the tombstone. So I don't know what's happened to those tombstones, but there's a whole lot more people gone, or the tombstone's gone from that cemetery than what's in there now. So I don't have no idea what happened to it. But there's something wrong. All I'm saying is there's people that have families that need to get back to that cemetery. And you're all proposing to put a gate up there, and you call somebody whenever you, so I have to call somebody, and if somebody is not there to answer that phone, I have to go home and say, well, I'll come back next Tuesday if you'll let me in. I don't think that's right. I don't see how the logistics is going to work on that.
You asked a couple questions. Can we answer those in turn, specifically about the headstones and the fence, and then we can talk about the
all right,
phone number, if that's okay?
Sure.
Then, if you can explain, and we have another witness here too that may be able to answer that, but if you can talk about your knowledge, and again, that's going to be secondhand, but your knowledge of that cemetery and vandalism and those type things, which we're also concerned about.
Right. So again, I've only seen the cemetery from about a year ago until now. Been there several times, just looking at it. I've been told by a tenant who lived on the corner farm before we purchased it that vandals would sometimes come back there and unfortunately mess with the headstones. I don't know much more than that. Professor Hilkoff has been there like 40 years. I think he can shed a little light on the graveyard. The one thing I can mention, as far as the access goes, we were just trying to find a win-win solution. We're just like you. We want anybody that wants to visit the cemetery to go right ahead. There's call service that it's relatively inexpensive that we use at other locations. It's 24/7. Someone answers it. If they answer the right type of questions, they give them a code number. They go right on through the gate.
Well, how are you going to decide who's allowed to go back to the cemetery and who's not?
We'll let you, if you want to work with us on this script, but essentially is the operator. If they say a legitimate answer, such as I need to go back to see the Babbitt Cemetery or the Smith Cemetery, they'll let them through. But if they say I'm lost, I'm looking for a friend's house or something like that, they won't let them through. So we can make the script however we want.
Okay.
We're concerned about
Ask another
vandalism in the
question?
cemetery as well.
Okay. Let me ask you a question. When you bought the piece of property, did you know that was a county road?
Yes.
So I'm against closing the road. I don't believe in giving up anybody's property rights because you never know when you're going to need it. Now, there's been a lot of talk about you all, it's never going to be developed. To me, that doesn't matter if it's ever developed or not because I frankly don't want it developed. And you're in total control of the property, whether it's going to be developed or not, because you own it. The question is keeping a road that's been there for 200 years and giving up the rights and just giving it back to somebody that doesn't own it. When it belongs to the citizens of Oldham County, it doesn't belong to anybody else. That's what I have a problem with. And I don't even have a problem with people driving back there. You know, there's got to be a solution to every problem. And I see there's three solutions here to this that we can do to this road. One, we can leave it open where people can turn around, and it's not trespassing to go to that road, which I think the gate's wrong anyway. It shouldn't be there to begin with because that road goes on back in there. It has to go past the cemetery, at least to the observatory, because that's where the road stopped.
Nobody here put the gate up.
I understand. I totally, and I think that gate is illegal to be there to begin with because that's still county road. So if somebody goes to that gate, and let's say we leave the gate there, if you back up into that driveway, which is right around the corner, you're not trespassing on somebody's property. Because if that is a county road, there is right-of-way next to that road that you can't back up into somebody's driveway. That's on any road in the state of Kentucky. I mean, you just don't own from gravel to gravel. There has to be a right-of-way next to that.
Okay.
However wide it is or whatever. So nobody's really trespassing on your property when they back into your driveway and leave. Now, if they go up in your driveway, I would say call the cops and have them arrested because you have every right to defend your property. I just don't know what the county's going to gain by closing this road. You know, well, let's get back to the three things. You can leave it like it is, and people can just turn around your driveway, which you're not trespassing when they do that. I say you can put a road up there and say no vehicles, but still allow people to. The county retains its property ownership, which still belongs to the county, and they can walk back there and walk back. If they get on your property and doing something, you call the cops, have them arrested. They're on your property. They can't get off the road. So there's a lot of different options you can do to this thing. I'm not in favor, and I've never been in favor to closing any road that belongs to the county because what happens in 50 years from now, when something happens, if we have to buy the property back or have to go back in or condemn the property and take it back, there's no need to close this road. It's not serving any purpose to close it. I don't know what, besides you don't want nobody back there because you're afraid they're going to trespass on your property. Why do you even want to close the road?
Well, one, to save you all money, and second is for safety. My wife, my daughter, everybody's back there. We're back there in the house spending the night or doing a cookout or something, and some person comes back there and they act like they're lost. I don't want them coming back there, you know, a mile and a half back in nowhere and coming up on my wife and daughter when it can happen so easily.
Sir, I understand that, but that could happen on any road in Oldham County. I mean, it can happen anywhere somebody can come up to a private property and say, hey, I want or do some harm. I understand your fear and I understand you want to protect your family, but you knew that was a county road when you bought it and you knew that was a potential there. You just can't stop. If there's a problem, there's chief of police right in here now. You can call his telephone number and have somebody arrested tomorrow or today if somebody does something. So as far as poachers or whatever's coming on your property, you have every right to defend your property. I don't understand. Well, I understand your fear, but you can't close off a road.
The other is that it just seems that it just serves our property only. It dead ends at the University of Louisville's property.
Well, Cedar Point Road on the other side of 320 or 393, there's two people who live on that one. Should we close that road also? On the south side of 393. I mean, there's a lot of roads that dead end to some place. I mean, you know, it's not just yours. We just can't go around closing roads, especially when it belongs to the people of Oldham County. That's just and anybody else wants to talk, I'll be quiet now and let somebody else talk.
If I can respond briefly, Judge.
All right.
Just briefly, Magistrate Lawson, the statute clearly provides, KRS Chapter 170 clearly provides the provision to close county roads. And it says if the road serves no public necessity, and you can read the petition, you can read the statute yourself, that this court has the ability to vote to close the road. You have disinterested observers that are required to be appointed by statute. Those have been appointed by the fiscal court. You all chose those two people. Ms. Stuber went out with them. They've all said there's no public necessity to the road. So I have a closing statement in a minute, but to say that there's no reason to close the road, the statute sets forth the provisions to close the road, and I don't see any reason to leave the road open the way the statute's written, but we can disagree on that. So.
Well, again, there has to be some give and take here. And why can't that be a walking trail for people? You close it off, stop motor vehicles from coming back in there, except for I'd like to see a tractor go back there and turn around for the Brownsboro community on a hayride. But why can't we make that a walking trail for the citizens of Oldham County to be able to walk back there?
If I can respond to the last issue you raised about the tractor for the Brownsboro Festival, you all may want to talk to Mr. Rector about this, but it's our position. We feel that we've been good neighbors to Mr. Parrish. Mr. Rector and his family consider Mr. Parrish to be a friend. I don't know the numbers, but I can tell you that even long before the Rector family purchased this property, through Reliable Partners purchased this property, they have been supportive of both the Brownsboro Community Center as well as the Brownsboro Festival. And Mr. Parrish has acknowledged that through the years. I know things have changed. Obviously, we have strata spaces in part of the mine now, and things do change. We have made clear to Mr. Parrish, and I'll make clear here on the record, that we have no problem so continuing to support the Brownsboro Festival and giving them access to that road on their one day a year that they have the festival for the hayride. That's not an issue. If that's something that's causing anybody pause to vote against this today, Mr. Rector will tell you, can't speak for the University of Louisville, and quite frankly, there's a gate back there, but as far as the Rector property goes, the Reliable Partner property goes, which is the bulk of this, 1 7/10 miles, Mr. Parrish and the Brownsboro Festival are welcome to use that road on that day. So I just want to put that to rest if that's a concern, that we're not seeking to take that away.
What about the walking trail? I mean, what purpose would it hurt for the citizens of Oldham County? We have a walkway from Commerce Parkway to LaGrange that we paid hundreds of thousands of dollars to put a sidewalk through, so the people of Oldham County can walk up down there. Why can't that be a walking trail for the citizens of Crestwood and Pee Wee and Brownsboro and all those people to walk back there and walk out? They don't have to get on your property. You have every right to protect your property. But why can't people walk back up and down through there if you don't want road or traffic back through there?
I think you're comparing apples to oranges. The Commerce Parkway walkway is obviously well-traveled, it's lit, police are there all the time. My personal view is that Mr. Rector can correct me if I'm wrong, but quite frankly, I think that walkers on that road would invite trespassing maybe more than vehicles driving back it. If they're on foot, you see something you want to go see, it's real easy to walk over there. We're talking about a 2-mile stretch of road that no one lives on. I mean, it's not like the police aren't back there. There are no lights. We have high walls. We have high voltage transmission lines. We have lots and lots of dangers back there, lots of opportunity for people to trespass on this property, especially when they're on foot. It's very easy to walk off that road and trespass, get hurt. I think that's a disaster waiting to happen.
Well, I tell you what, I don't know, but since the beginning of the United States history, when somebody wants to keep somebody off their property, they fence it. So they could run a fence up and down through that road if they want to keep people off. And I'm not against y'all from owning the piece of property. I'm against closing the road. That's a county road. It belongs to the citizens of Oldham County, and I do not think it should be closed, period.
Magistrate Greenwell.
Thank you, Judge. Magistrate Logston, if it had been an interest to be a walking trail, they would have already been used for a walking trail. You can walk on any road you want to in Oldham County.
Well, nobody knew, you know what, until all this hornets got stirred up, nobody knew that road was really there. But now, since it's been brought to the attention, I bet there's a lot of people in Oldham County would love to walk up and down it now that they know it's there.
It's been there for 200 years as a stagecoach road, and I imagine people walked on it 200 years ago.
Magistrate Sparks.
Yeah, you claim that the road is going to be dangerous for vehicles because it's not maintained, but yet and we don't want to make it a walking road, but I'm sure U of L is going to drive on that road, right? So you really, it's too dangerous for the public, but it's okay, dangerous for the U of L people. That's a rhetorical question. You started to talk about how this serves but two people, because there are two property owners back there, and that's the crux to your problem. You think it's only theirs, but that cemetery back there represents many families that are lifelong residents of this community. So it does represent access to many people. That road is the county's road. It's not theirs. All right? And it really upset me that once again, somebody from Louisville's coming out here and decide they want to rewrite the way we do our county. This isn't the first time, but, in your presentation, you mentioned this old Stagecoach Road, or you maybe not said that, but you said maybe Daniel Boone walked on it once. Well, you know what? Daniel Boone walked on it. That's a heck of a lot more relevant than a lot of things that we call historical and we preserve in the rest of our community. We spend a fortune up here making sure that people can't change the siding on their houses, that we make sure we protect property in Westport, that we make sure we have nice stained glass windows up here at the church. But yet, we want to just throw away the oldest road in our county, probably, because a couple people want it. And this last page that you put on here was the thing that really riled me up. Because it's almost like you're trying to intimidate us to approve the road by saying, well, if you don't give us the road, then we're going to demand crushed stone, snow removal, fallen trees, grading, et cetera, et cetera. I got news for you, sir. You're incorrect. We don't do snow removal on gravel roads, and we have several gravel roads in this county that belong to the county. All right, so it's incorrect.
I'm
I think
I'm not sure that's an accurate statement.
It's not an accurate statement.
Well, you told me before that we don't do snow removal on the rock roads because it would tear up the rock.
It does remove the rock, but we'd have no choice but to scrape the road anyway and replace the rock. That's why we try to get away from gravel roads as much as possible. We still scrape them.
So we plow all the gravel roads that
Yes,
we have. All
we
right,
have.
I stand corrected and I apologize. All right, I would like to know though, why the key question for us to do a lot of activities up here is because it serves the interest of the community. I don't believe giving this road away, one of our oldest roads, serves the interest of the community in any way. I'm adamantly against it, even more so today than I was before, but I think that the thing that upsets me the most is the things that we hold dear in this community and we look at as a sense of pride, like the oldest Stagecoach Road in our community, are just jerked out of our existence and they disappear. And that's all I have to say.
Magistrate Tice.
Yeah, Mr. Clubb, if I could just ask a couple of questions to get my bearings correct on this.
Sure.
If you could go back to your first picture,
Let me put it on the screen.
that would be fine. And I've got it, it's not counting the cover, it'd be page number 6 is the way I know.
All right.
That shows, what I'm talking about shows the property lines. Going from right to left, the point that you're talking about closing the road, how far down the red line is it? Or is it prior to the red line?
The way that we asked Mr. Meyer to draw this, and obviously my purpose in drawing the map the way that I did is I wanted to show a larger area. I wanted to show I-71, the old Lighters Court, just so you all basically saw that there's no logical place for this road to come out. But what we've asked him to do is start the red line right here at the point that we propose to close the road. And if I can go down a screen or two, I can probably show you a little bit better from a picture. That would help.
Well, I'm gonna move, and that's what I wanted to know there. I'm gonna move to a couple other pictures, which are page 8, which would be down a couple. Now, is 393 behind me and I'm looking on into the woods?
That is correct.
Okay. And you're talking about putting the, closing the road on the other side of that intersection there. Is that correct, or just prior to that intersection?
That's correct. Mr. Parrish showed 2 posts, one approximately here, one here. Those were put up, those were taken down almost immediately after they were put up, after the issue was raised. The gate that we are proposing now and where we are asking to close the road from will actually be, actually it's a little further up than that, on the other side of that turnaround.
That's what I'm getting at. So there would be, the gate would be past the turnaround, where if you wandered back there by mistake, you could turn around in between that fence you see on the left, and I assume there's a fence on the right behind the thicket.
That is exactly right. If a tractor trailer makes it past this point, that tractor trailer's in trouble.
Give me one more second. I think that's got me, but. No, that's fine. Thank you.
Magistrate Greenwell.
Thank you. Mr. Clubb, on the page that says owner's position, I don't have page numbers on mine, but anyway.
Bottom right, it's kind of hard to read.
Right, they're real
It's in the blue line.
Oh, I see, okay. Anyway, down at the bottom, it says, access will be provided to visitors of the U of L Observatory, the Babbitt Cemetery, and emergency services will have unfettered access. Could you define unfettered access a little better?
Can I bring Mr. Rector up to explain that? It's actually, I was a little amazed when he told me how that actually works. I think it's got something to do with sirens and,
Okay.
Right, thank you. So, we put up a gate that's the one that's pictured on the Horner driveway, and that's how we get in and out of the farm.
Right.
And when we put it up, we told Rates Fence Company to order us one that opened automatically when a police or medical or EMS fire siren went. They messed up, and so it's on us. We screwed up. They didn't install it. And so a couple weeks ago, during the high wind storms, a tree knocked down a power line on our property. Even though it was fairly wet, it caught some grass on fire. The fire department was called, South Oldham, who we're very familiar with. They do testing at our quarry and some high wall drills and things. They came out there. They didn't have the gate code to get in, so they called our facility manager, who they know real well. He gave them a code. They went in. And so lo and behold, we realized we had screwed up. And so what they decided they would prefer is a lockbox. And I'm told they have these all over the city and county. It's a lockbox where the fire and EMS have a key to it that you apply for. And then once they open it up, it'll have a code in there for them, or it'll have a clicker or something like that. So if we're allowed to build another fence, you know, past the turnaround, if there's a semi-tractor trailer, it's an important point that he brought up. We're going to make a big turnaround down there where a semi-tractor and trailer can turn around down there if they go back there. They would come to it, and it will either have the siren gadget on it where it opens up with a loud siren, and or a lockbox for the EMS and police department and fire department. Whatever you all or they decide and they prefer, we can do both. It doesn't matter. But they'll have access one way or the other to go through the gate.
Okay. Thank you.
Talking about that gate right there at the entrance to the area you want,
Yes.
where you want to put the initial gate.
yes. You want to see a picture of that, the proposed gate?
I remember a picture of it, but I wondered if gentleman who lived, Mr. Hedges, could you come back and show us how a truck turns around there, please? With that map or picture.
There's two if you want to hit the.
I believe
button.
you said trucks turn around down there. I was curious how they do that.
Well, they'll have to take a couple is this
Yeah, absolutely.
touchpad? He would come and nose in this way and try to back up. He has to either pull to the right and then back up and take a couple draws at it, depending on size of trailer and size of truck, and then come back out. Is how when Oak Island gets stuff. If that was, it's tough for them to do now. Sometimes they do back out on 329, and we just have to stop traffic for them. But the best way is for them to go down there, turn around, and come back out.
Does that maneuver involve trespassing on Mr. Rector's property at this point?
I'll be honest with you, I do not know.
We're not.
It appears to me it does, but I mean, yeah.
that one bit, because we're in favor of their business.
And at that point, whatever right-of-way's there and past the right-of-way belongs to either Rogers Group or Liable Partners. They intend, as Mr. Rector just said, I just wouldn't clarify it with him, to put a turnaround, if you all vote to approve this, they intend to put a turnaround in there that exceeds what's there now. They would make it easy for not only tractor trailers for this gentleman's business and his neighbor's business, but quite frankly, maybe for Rogers Group employees and tractor trailers and triaxle dump trucks to turn around. So we intend to make that a safe turnaround.
I have a question.
Thank you,
Judge.
Mr. Somebody have a question?
Council down there.
Yeah, I have a question of Mr. Clubb. The road is actually not deeded in the county's name, correct? The county does not own physically the road.
Not that I have found.
Second issue, the issue is not whether a public need exists, but the issue is under KRS 178070, which requires the county engineer, along with the two people appointed by fiscal court to review the matter, to determine whether or not there would be an inconvenience would result from the discontinuance of the road. Not whether there's a public need, but whether there exists an inconvenience that would result from the discontinuance of the road. Under KRS 178.116, if there is no public need, and if the road provides a necessary access for a private person, and 3, if the road has been maintained and policed by the county or the state within a 3-year period, if none of that exists, then the county road automatically is discontinued by operational law. So it's not a public need, it's whether or not there's an inconvenience created by the closing of the road. I just wanted to clarify that, because we've been talking about public need as opposed to inconvenience. And I don't think and I'll read the statute for you, what has to happen. This is directly from the statute, and it's talking about the two viewers who have no vested interest in the discontinuance of the road, and who, together with the county engineer, shall view the road and report in writing at the hearing what inconvenience would result from the discontinuance.
Measure Sparks.
Yeah, so following on that, so are you saying it would be a inconvenience to the people who are going back there to access the grave sites?
No, you cannot keep anyone, you have to have access for grave sites. There's a statute that requires that. So that has to be maintained. What I'm saying is the issue is whether or not there exists an inconvenience if the road is discontinued. Now, what that means, there's no direction or by any of the case law or anything that says what that means. I think Beth Stuber and the two people that went out to view that were the ones that were supposed to come back and advise the court of whether or not there would be an inconvenience if the road was closed.
Well, I think there would be. I think that when the property owners bought the property, they knew it was a public road, and so I don't see why there's a sudden need to change it. And I also think that one of the biggest problems is this happens a lot when we do planning and zoning and people get waivers and excuses and everything else. You know, everybody may feel hunky-dory today and promise the moon to everybody and access, but what happens in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, or this road's been here 200 years? Who knows what kind of headache they're going to have if they want to access that area back there. And in the future, you know, is the judge, the sheriff, the county police, whoever, going to go back there to solve these disputes? I think it should stay in the public domain, and that way there's no question about who owns it, who has access, and it's maintained. You know, that would solve the problem. This is just going to create problems.
Judge.
Magistrate Eldridge.
Thank you, Judge. I appreciate, Mr. Clubb, you sending us the code for the gate. Magistrate Greenwell and I went out there and toured the place. We were luckily enough to run into Dr. Kilkoff. We appreciate him trying to show us around and tell us where things were. I have no problem with the gate. I appreciate the fact that you're willing to make it a 24-hour gate. I appreciate the fact that you're willing to open it for the Brownsboro Festival. Appreciate the turnaround you're willing to make for your other neighbor. But what I would like to see is this done through a easier for me to say, memorandum of understanding through the county attorney, to where this could all be done without us giving up that right-of-way. My reasoning for that is very simple. Brownsboro Alliance and several groups are working on trailheads back through there. Some of those trailheads will eventually go to U of L, is my understanding. And this may, at some point, years from now, be the perfect place for that trailhead to come out and come back to the Brownsboro Festival. I have no problem with any of your plans, but I want that road, at least the right-of-way, to remain with us through some sort of memorandum. And that's just how I will be thinking of it today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let me ask a point of clarification. Mr. Carter, did you hear anything in that discussion that you felt was possible or impossible? In other words, can this road be partitioned off and remain public property and serve the objectives of the people who want to keep, let's say, car traffic down to a minimum, but allow others who may want to walk in the woods an opportunity to do so on the road?
Once you block off the road, that constitutes a taking. And once you take the road, you got to pay for it if you're taking it. So we have an easement on the road. I mean, it's not an easement, but it's a county road. We just don't own the property. But once we block it off, I think you're discontinuing the county road. I don't know what kind of agreement if that's the way the court wants to go, I'd be glad to discuss that with Mr. Clubb about how we could go about doing that. But once the road is closed, however the county closes the road, the title of the property reverts back to the owners, and they own the road. So you want to be careful about doing something that actually closes the road.
Is that what, Mr. Eldridge, is that what you're trying to aim at?
Frankly, Mr. Carter, and I appreciate you stepping in there, where I am confused with that issue is we've heard testimony both for and against that evidently the county road's been gated for over 2 decades.
You're talking about back by U of L.
Before you get to U of L, there are 2 gates.
Oh, I didn't know that.
There's only one. There's only the Lock Farm
Right,
gate.
1 gate and then a no trespassing sign at the U of L border, I believe.
There are several back the road, but there's one gate that's been there, I believe, since 1974 is what Dr. Kilcoff would testify.
I would say that from the gate back, that's probably no longer a county road, if it were litigated.
My question to that would be, John, was it closed illegally when they closed it off 24 years ago, and nobody said anything about it?
Yeah, we didn't give them permission to block it off.
You're talking about a whole body of law that it'd take 5 Philadelphia lawyers to figure out.
We got lots of.
It has to do with adverse possession and open and notorious.
Let's maintain Robert's rules, please. Mr. Likens?
Thank you, Judge. I had 2 questions, and one was, this is listed as a 30-foot wide access and utility easement. Is this a right-of-way or is this an easement? Because there are different
What are you looking
different
at, if I can
animals.
ask?
Pardon? I'm looking at the legal description of the ground from Exhibit 0. And I don't know if our county engineer has looked into the difference, but a right-of-way is owned by the county, and easement is owned by the property owner, and it's for a specific purpose, such as a gas easement. Doesn't mean that a water line can be built on a gas easement. And that was one of my questions I guess I would like explained.
Yes.
May I look at what he's
Maybe
referring to?
Beth Stuber have something to say about that? She's come up here. So.
It is not platted right-of-way, given the age of it. It is, it's been used as a prescriptive easement over the years. It has been county maintained, and like I went back to, of the age of it, it is by default county. And I take it it is all about the default of the KSR has a 30-foot right-of-way.
Okay.
Judge, if I could answer the question.
Yes, sir.
Just as I've looked, he's referring to Exhibit C attached to our petition to close the road. What that is actually a description that we had Jeff Meyer prepare. That is the That is what we will be granting to the University of Louisville if this body decides to close the road, so that they will have both access and an easement to provide utilities, whatever they need to run the observatory. They'll have the 30-foot passway. So this is our understanding with the University of Louisville. If this goes through today, that we will grant this easement and access to them.
Sir, my other question was this to Magistrate Greenwell. Do we lose county road aid money if we lose so many feet of this road? I mean, we get paid a county road aid based on how much mileage we have of county roads in the county, and this would decrease from that mileage.
It would be negated within a year or two of the roads that we pick up. So in other words, we're talking about 2 miles out of possibly 320 miles. We probably pick up a couple miles a year about taking up new developments and roads that have been brought up to standards and stuff like that. So it would be a wash in a short period of time.
I understand we gain when we gain, but this is a step backwards.
Yes.
In our county
Temporarily.
road aid money. Thank you.
Magistrate Dye.
Okay, I'm the last one to speak because this is in my district. What I see here today is, I look at the letter from the committee, and then I've talked to George Parrish several times on the phone, and it's always a joy to talk to George. He's full of a lot of history and institutional knowledge. I've talked to Mr. Clubb and Mr. Rector, and everyone who came and talked today, Mr. Hedges and Fisher and Judy and Crass and Mr. McKinney, there seems to be a mix of what they want to happen. But I guess I'm going to ask Mr. Clubb, who is going to be, are any of these people that want to go walk down that road going to be denied the right to walk down that road? Or Mr. Rector, I'll direct it to you.
I'm going home tonight. Mr. Rector is the one that owns the property, so he probably should answer that question.
Right, so if you all allow us to close the road and put up the gate, our intention was we are so good friends with George, give George a code. Past that, I don't know who we're going to give a code to, but we clearly are not going to give out,
You mentioned
50 codes.
Yeah, you mentioned a script, and that's something that you and Mr. Parrish could work out, because maybe he's got probably some key words, Brownsboro words that Brownsboro people may know and understand what they are. I don't know those things. But my concern is we talk about closing the road. We're not bulldozing it away. The road's always going to be there. But I think, is it the fact that you want to be able to drive down the road? Is it the fact that you want to be able to just go over there and walk on that road? What exactly, I can't get a good feel. Now, Mr. Hedges, I understand your situation. Is he still here? Yeah, there you are. I understand the concern about the tractor trailers. It is tough back there, and I talked to Billy McMicken about that on several occasions from the people over there at Oak Island, okay? I think the police have had had a chat or two with them about it. So I think that's a great deal where they have the turnaround. But it looks like to me we're spending a lot of time talking about putting a gate up, and we're not talking about blocking anybody from going back there. Now, giving away closing the road and keeping it under county's control, that's something I'm going to let the legal minds work on that. If you can do it, do it. But no one is, as far as I can see, and I hope anyone can correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think that anybody that came today and talked at that microphone is going to be denied. And George, I think you're probably, you're the main guy here. I don't think anybody's going to get denied the right to go on that road, even me. And I have no desire to walk down a 2-mile road, But I have roads I would like to walk down, but that's not the one. So that's all I've got to say about it. So, and I know that gentleman back there has been waving. I don't know if you're waving at me or you want to talk again.
You'd have to come to the front, sir. We don't allow people to speak from the audience. If you would like to speak, come to the front.
I'm 80 years old. It takes me time to
I wouldn't have either.
Okay, over in Indiana, of course, I'm from Indiana, and I don't know all about your Kentucky laws over here, anything about your Kentucky laws. Over there, we got roads like that, especially in Harrison County. We got dead end, no outlet signs at the front of them. So anybody that goes down that road knows that the only way to get out is turn around and come back. That's one thing. Another one is, road is not maintained, travel at your own risk. We got those too at the signs where the county doesn't have to maintain the road up to really good county standards. That then relieves the liability of somebody getting stuck back there and suing the county or falling in a chuck hole and breaking a leg. That relieves the county of any liability for something like that happening. So that's all I got to say about it. There are things that you can do, which they do over there. We got them. We like to drive on those roads because we wonder what's back there.
Magistrate Leslie.
I have to agree with Michael and JD on this issue. I think we should keep this as a county road. And that's my feeling.
Judge, I'd like to say one more thing, please.
Magistrate Logston.
You know, I totally understand y'all's concern about people going back there, your safety and things like that. But again, it was a county road when you bought it. You knew it was a county road. And the Brownsboro Alliance is trying to build, you know, I was gone last week to Alabama, so I wasn't able to meet the people over there. I think Magistrate Dye, you went over there and looked at the trails they're trying to do. You know, Jefferson County spent millions of dollars to do this Floyd's Fork walking paths as they do. I mean, I would hate to give up this road that one day that the trailhead, just like Magistrate Eldridge said, might be to create a loop around this whole area. And we would pay millions of dollars for land and condemned property that Floyd's Fork people had to do. And Mr. Clubb, I know you don't understand what I'm saying because I'm just trying to get to a point. Why close a road that's already there that would benefit the people of Oldham County one day if we ever do to? And John, Mr. Carter, I would like to say it will be an inconvenience for me because I do drive back that road. Just like Mr. Perry says, sometimes if my blood pressure gets up, you just drive back that road and come back, and it's the most peaceful road in the world. I've talked to Chief Smith about that before, going back there. That is one of the most peaceful roads you can go back, turn around, and come back out. It's beautiful back there. And I just personally do not want to see that taken from the citizens of Oldham County. Thank you.
Anybody else have a comment here? I think we've pretty well exhausted our public hearing with rebuttals and cross-examinations and whatnot. I'd like to say this, listening to this. I believe, interpreting the reliable partners and Mr. Rector's point of view is that and the first thing I want to do is apologize to you for disparaging remark about somebody from Louisville. We're part of the metropolitan area here. This gentleman has, he may live in Louisville, but he has millions of dollars invested in our community. So to make a remark about somebody from Louisville coming out here trying to do something is embarrassing to the court. And I apologize to you for that. This man, is my understanding here, has bought property to operate his business. He mines underground. He's been providing minerals or rock to projects in this area. That's how they earn a living. I don't know how many people are employed by your company, but I thank you for those that work here in Oldham County that you employ. They have been a generous donor to our county for a number of years. We've hit them up for rock over at the fairgrounds and different things, and they have not been miserly with their generosity. They have helped. Now, he has come here today telling us that he's expanded his business, he's bought some property, and he's concerned about the security of his property and people coming on his property that may create a liability for him. We have a road here that everybody appreciates. I've been down this road. I drove it last year when the subject first came up, and you know, to be perfectly honest about it, I thought it was a stunningly beautiful place, and I drove my car down there. I was by myself. I was a little bit nervous. I thought, well, if my car breaks down here, or if somebody jumps out from a bush, you know, thank God I do have a police radio in my car. I can call for help, but maybe somebody else wouldn't. I personally don't think the security is all that high. Now, I'm not going to embarrass any magistrates here who believe in the road and in the beauty of it by asking them when the last time they walked the road was. May not have been any time recently, particularly if we move back away from the time we're talking about this subject. Well, how many times have you taken your children down that road? I'd say probably none, to be honest about it. But we have something that some people here think is a treasure. You have wound up buying what in some places is called an attractive nuisance. It's a nuisance to you, but it's attractive to other people who don't want to give it up. It's the road runs on pretty much, some of it on a ridge. You could fall off if you didn't drive your vehicle correctly. I don't think the development prospects back there are ever going to be there. Could somebody run a trail through there at some point? Yes, I think it could happen in the distant future. Hadn't happened for 200 years. Up until the time this subject came up, a few people were interested in this road, but the county government hadn't been too interested in this road. We never paved it. We haven't, I venture to say, I don't know, I asked Chief Smith how many times this road is patrolled. I'd guess it's minimal. Probably nobody going down this road ever. You do. But I heard you say that you don't like riffraff going down there. Well, George, I agree with you, but I'm not always sure what's riffraff? You know, anybody but us? I don't know, you know.
Undesirable.
Undesirable. Well, I mean, who is and who is not desirable, who's a taxpayer and who's not, it gets a judgment call that can get a little tricky on public property. So I would like to, I don't know, I've been trying to think of what can we do to reach a middle ground here. I would very much like to satisfy Mr. Rector in his security concerns and U of L and their security concerns. I was out there and looked at the telescope from a distance. I'm sure they want people to leave it alone. You know, just not everybody should have access to it. On the other hand, I believe in the history of our county, in the things that have gone on, and not losing the treasures that we have. We talked about the Babbitt Cemetery. You know, I could be wrong, but I bet you there hadn't been in the last 25 Memorial Days a flower put on the Babbitt Cemetery. You know, probably not. You know, but I'm gonna make a motion that we table this, talk further with Mr. Carter and Magistrate Eldridge, see if there's anything we could do. I've asked him, and he hasn't been able to come up with the answer yet. I said, can we maybe take this road and say it's a road that we're going to work on, but we consider it, you know, an impaired road at this point. Do not invite vehicular traffic except in very limited circumstances. I wouldn't mind putting a gate up there and keeping out the people we need to keep out, but trying to balance this out somewhere and have everybody come out with some degree of satisfaction and not exactly have winners and losers here. I'll be honest with you, I balance more on the side of Mr. Rector because I think he's got a security concern. He owns property on both sides. It doesn't go anywhere. It's not going to go anywhere in our lifetimes. I mean, let's be honest about it. The people that own all the property on 329, they're not giving it up. They're putting it in land conservations. They're not going to develop that property. They don't want anybody going through their property either too much. But I hear what you're saying about people who love it, but have the people who come here today, have you walked it? Have you been out there, or do you just want to hang on to it? I mean, it's an old stagecoach trail, and that's important, and I think we shouldn't give it up. But 99% of the people in this county couldn't find the road and have never been on it. And I think that tells you something about the level of convenience and interest there is in it.
Judge, I second your motion, and now we voted up or down to table.
All right. All right, thank you. All right, would you call the roll, Madam Secretary?
So we're voting now to table it. We're not voting whether to approve or not approve it, right?
The judge made a motion to table, didn't you, Judge?
Yes, sir.
I just want to double check.
Right, right.
Magistrate Tice,
Yes.
Magistrate Greenwell,
No.
Magistrate Likens,
Yes.
Magistrate Leslie,
Yes.
Magistrate Eldridge,
Yes.
Magistrate Sparks, Magistrate Logsdon,
Yes.
Magistrate Dye,
No.
Judge Vogel.
Yes. Motion passes 7-2. Thank you.
Judge, how long can that sit on the table?
Till we pick it up.
I just want to make sure. I thought that somebody said at one point if it sat on the table too long, it would be dead.
I'm not sure of that. Somebody'd have to research Roberts on that. Magistrate Eldridge?
So we're asking our counselor and Mr. Clubb to work together to try to come up with a solution?
Yes.
Thank you.
Right. I don't know,
Judge, if I may just.
Yes, sir.
Point of clarity, should I, after Mr. Carter and I meet, should I contact your office regarding bringing this matter back before the?
Yes, right.
Thank you all for your consideration.
And I might add, if anyone from Brownsboro has an idea that will address your interests, but take into consideration Mr. Rector's security for his property, we'd be interested in hearing that too. Not right now, okay, because we're here, it's 5 o'clock. We've got several more issues on the agenda, but, present them to Magistrate Eldridge or Mr. Carter, or you can send them to me. Appreciate them in writing, but if there's any common ground to be found here, let's try to find it, okay?
What about making that an official committee and having some representation from the county attorney, the property owners in Brownsboro, having a representation on that, instead of the property owners and county attorney coming up with something and then bringing it back and having to argue with the Brownsboro people later?
Well, that, seems like it could be a good idea, but I think we need the Brownsboro people to, if you want to work among yourselves, to get someone who could be a liaison with Mr. Carter and Magistrate Eldridge. I'm trying to address his MOU idea here, and I think the gentleman from Indiana had some good ideas there about signage, but it has to, I know this isn't addressing your concern, because you really would just, he owns both sides of the road. There's nobody going to buy anything out there. It is a pretty site. It's an unfortunate circumstance in that regard, but he does not want somebody back there on his property. Does anybody here want strangers walking on your property? Well, no, we don't. None of us do.
We don't want to get on his either.
No.
We don't want to get on his. It's blocked off.
No, but you said when you see riffraff come around, your ears go up. Well, they do when people come by my house that I don't know, I'm wondering who they are too. So he has the same right to wonder when people are near his property.
I'm the first person back when I see a stranger. I'm the first person back there. I
But-
went back there in the morning at 1:30 behind the car, tracking snow, the last snow we had. And, yeah,
Okay, well, we're getting off on the subject here now, so.
that's my job.
All right, Magistrate Tice?
Could I move for a 5-minute break?
Yes, sir. Motion, all in favor?
Second, yeah.
Aye.
You there, and you're-
Well, you don't.
I get,